Rural Hill got a crash 24 westbound right there at Bell Road. Then in Pegram, left shoulder blocked by a crash 40 eastbound after McCrory Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends, boys and girls, children of all ages. It's time for the Matt Murphy Radio Show, underway for another day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am pleased as punch that you've made some time for us today. Whether it's by accident, you're just flipping around your blinky buttons in your automobile, and you happened upon us, thank you. Whatever time you give us, we're appreciative. Or the full 4 hours, we thank you for that as well. It's 6 minutes after 3 o'clock. Come on. We're here till 7 o'clock. And, hell, Mark Levin's after us. He'll be here till 10 or thereabouts. We've got lots to get into, as you might expect. It's a First Amendment Freestyle Friday on this day, January 3rd. It's the last day of the month, too. Payday for some folks. Chris Webber, I think he gets paid to be here. I don't think he would join me otherwise. He is behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as humanly possible, does a great job of that, fine at what he does, and we appreciate him on a daily basis. Hello, Mr. Webber.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Fair to partly cloudy?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
At least it's
sure.
dry.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, we had the rain, and now the rain's done, and then it looks like a pretty good weekend, right?
I think so.
That's what I'm told.
Looking forward to it.
That's what I'm told. I know the man that knows. He's Ken Weaver. He knows all the things that are fit to broadcast from a news format. He also knows the weather and the traffic on occasion, and he's back in News Closet B, gathering headlines as we speak, and generally speaking, making sure we're up to date on everything we need to be up to date on. Hello, Mr. Weaver.
I think that January 311th should be a national holiday.
January 311th?
This month is the longest month of the year.
What?
And I can't wait till it's over.
Is it? You think? I mean, to you?
Yeah, because it sucks.
Yeah, it's a long one. You don't like the cold? What else?
I don't like the cold.
You don't
Brother
like
Murphy.
any? You don't like any of it?
I don't like any of it. I don't care for February either. I'd like to be like Chris Farley in that Saturday Night Live episode where he drank a big old cup of what was called Hibernal. Looked just like NyQuil. And it knocked him out until April 1st.
Did you watch that last night, by the way?
No.
Did you happen to watch? So it's amazing that you mentioned this, Weaver. They had the best of commercial parodies for Saturday Night Live. I say they. I don't know what channel this is on.
Yeah.
But I'm doing some work in the office, and I look around, and it's an hour of all of their commercials.
Okay.
And let me tell you something. Saturday Night Live, I don't know if they're funny anymore because I don't watch them anymore, but they used to be
They
fun.
used to be really
And they
fun.
had that one, the Hibernal.
Yes.
Where he wakes up, he's got the big old long fingernails.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, man, I missed the Super Bowl. I recorded it for you, honey. Because he's got the flu. He just sleeps right through it.
Yeah, just sleeps all winter long.
Oh, my goodness. Some of those commercials, colon blow, will never not be funny. Phil Hartman, colon blow. It's like, do you know how much more fiber colon blow has than your cereal? Or how many bowls you would have to eat of your cereal to get the amount of fiber in colon blow? How many? 2? Try again. 3? No. 4? Try one more time. 6?
Not even close.
How about 50,000 bowls? And then there's super colon blow.
Oh, I love Phil Hartman.
Oh, man, my favorite of those old school commercials back in the day was the National Change Bank. It's called we are National Change Bank. All we do is make change. We don't offer loans. You're not allowed to make deposits. But if you have a 5 and you need 4 ones and 4 quarters, we're your bank. And they're like talking about Oh my gosh, they're doing like I had I had a foreign denomination of currency. Now they could not convert that foreign denomination from the pound into anything else, but they did give me 4 guineas, 3 whatever half pence.
Yeah.
And the guy says, and this is the line that makes me laugh every time I see it. The guy said, "Some people ask if all we do is make change, how do we earn money at National Change Bank? One word." Volume. That's so good.
Yeah, dude. They used to Saturday Night Live used to really be funny.
Own me, man. Oh, and they're doing a big push because Saturday Night Live. You want to feel old, Weaver? I understand. Saturday Night Live kind of do you remember its inception?
Yes,
Ken?
I was little bitty. Well, I wasn't little bitty. Hell, I was 7 years old. So I remember.
19 and 75. I was 2, so I don't really remember it.
Yeah.
But it's been around our entire lifetime. It is now 50. Saturday Night Live is 50.
Yeah.
And that's just a little hard to stomach.
I didn't really start watching it until I got into high school. Is when I went, just sitting around over at a party or whatever, it'd be on. And man,
I used to love it.
I think the cast that had Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, Victoria Jackson,
Dana Carvey was in there.
Dana Carvey, Nora. Oh gosh,
Nora Dunn.
Yes, Nora Dunn. I think that cast was one of the funniest they ever had.
Kevin Nealon was
Kevin
in on that
Oh,
one.
yeah. He was great.
Yeah.
Subliminal Man.
Yes.
Kevin Nealon.
Well, and the liar guy, John Larroquette.
John
Not John
Lovitz.
Larroquette, John Lovitz.
John
yes.
Lovitz. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket.
Gosh,
Yeah.
they were so funny.
Oh,
man.
so good. I remember I was watching the episode where they had the disastrous cast, and I guess Lorne Michaels was coming back. And they had the disastrous cast where Anthony Michael Hall, Robert Downey Jr. was on there.
Like 84, 85, something.
And they
That's terrible.
And the final episode, they had told them all that they fired everybody but John Lovitz, and I want to say there were 1 or 2 other like part-time players that they did not fire. But almost everybody but Lovitz got the can. And the last scene of the last episode was Lovitz as the devil with the little horns and the pitchfork, and everybody else was screaming, ah! And he's laughing, ah! So good.
Oh, man.
Oh, those were maybe we can get into some of that 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. We'll have some fun a little bit later on in the show. We'll talk about some of the activities going on this weekend. Obviously, we're going to talk about the press conference that was held today. Caroline Leavitt holding court in Washington, D.C., discussing clearly the airline disaster that occurred earlier this week, amongst other things. We'll give you the latest on the plane and helicopter crash. And we have a very special guest on the show. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break a little early so that we can go ahead and get Dee on. If you caught the 6 o'clock hour of the show last evening, toward the end of the program, we had a caller named Dee who said that he was a part of the operations that we are talking about along the Potomac River with regard to these helicopters that do training exercises and travel up and down the Potomac and enter into DCA airspace. He is a flight crew chief, or was a flight crew chief on these flights for the better part of a decade. I think I'm getting this right. He has more information, and I talked to him not only last night, but we had a great conversation earlier today. He has more information at his fingertips about what's going on there than most all of us on our social media keyboard warrior, we're all, pounding it out. He shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done that. Well, let's find out from a guy who made these types of flights with regularity. So we're going to talk with Dee, and he's going to fill in the gaps, fill in some information, and tell us some questions that he might ask had he the ability regarding this helicopter and airplane crash. We're going to do that next. Get into that. Of course, FriJay in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll have some fun with Jay St. Clair and some of these executive orders being issued by Donald J. Trump. And obviously, we'll tell you where we are on Senate confirmations, plus where we are on the Education Freedom Act. Now that it has been passed, the governor is in Washington, D.C. today. We are preparing to get the governor on the show next week to congratulate him on passing a signature piece of legislation and find out where we go from here. So all of that is to come on the show today. Happy to have you on board. It's 15 after the hour. You're listening to Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Nashville considering a lawsuit to block one of those bills that the governor will sign into law as a result of the special session. I'll let you know which one at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Ken Weaver. It is 19 minutes after 3 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Someone just told me I sounded like Phil Hartman. I take that as high praise.
You did.
I don't think I sound like Phil Hartman, but thank you for that.
Whenever you were trying to, you did.
Let me tell you, we need to readdress this subject a little bit later on in the show when I don't have a guest, because the reaction, because people are accusing us of forgetting the old school guys like Belushi and Chevy Chase and the Dan Aykroyd. No, that's not what we were saying at all.
No, sir.
No, not at all. I mean, I remember the Bass-O-Matic. Remember the Bass-O-Matic? When you want some delicious bass and don't have the time, it's time for the Bass-O-Matic. And he puts the whole bass into the Bass-O-Matic.
Whatever Garrett Morris played.
Oh, News. We can read it. Like, kid, you got a headline.
Two chique.
Did you you remember the news for the hearing impaired?
Yeah.
I do a headline, Ken. We're going to do news for this is time. It's time for news for the hearing impaired. You just do a headline. I'll be the.
All right, you ready?
All right, go.
Okay. Nashville is considering a lawsuit.
Nashville is considering a lawsuit. That's what they did. It's so funny. I don't know why, but like Chevy would just be sitting there, read a line, and then Garrett Morris would just scream it. It's like news for the hearing impaired.
Man, he was underappreciated.
Garrett?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's some funny stuff.
They did stuff back in the 70s you couldn't get away with anymore.
No.
When they were doing a musical in prison. Remember the musical sketch? They were auditioning for the musical for the prison, and Garrett Morris stepped up, and everybody was singing little songs to audition, and Garrett Morris's song was, "I'm gonna get me a shotgun and kill all the whiteys I see."
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to get me a shotgun and kill all the whiteys I see.
Yeah.
And when I kill the whiteys I see, Whitey won't be bothering me. It's like, anyway, I got it. All right. Enough fun having for now. We got to talk about more serious things. I apologize to D for getting him in here on the back end of that. But, man, oh, man, D called us last night, and D is not his full name, and he has asked that we not divulge that. But I've had some background conversation with him, and he is a wealth of understanding and a wealth of knowledge about what's going on in Washington, D.C. And I wanted to bring him back on today to talk to some of you good people about what we know, what we don't know, what we can extrapolate from the action that happened just the other day on the Potomac River. D, thanks for being on with us. Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, man, that's a hard segue.
I know. From,
I'm involved in training somebody right now, and we convinced him that his primary trainer was hard of hearing. So the first time they met, he screamed in his ear, thinking he was doing the right thing, and hilarity ensued. So that's a great segue into this one.
Give us a little, for those who missed the call last night, because it was toward the end of the show, just give us a little bit of your background and what you did for years up in Virginia and the Washington, D.C. area.
So I was both active duty and National Guard air crew, as you said, a crew chief. And those years in the Guard, our local flying area was the D.C. metro and Virginia area. So, that route was a common route for us, day, night, all times of year, all different type missions. So the night that this happened, I'd gone to bed already. But when I woke up, it was a really tight friend group, and we're all texting around, hey, do you know who it was? Do you know anything? Because for the longest time, we thought it was possibly somebody we knew or, we're still in touch with. But during the Guard time, I was also, and I'm still currently in law enforcement, and train Fed guys up there, in protective services and close protection and things like that. So, kind of wired into the district in several different ways.
So you were a crew chief on these Blackhawks.
That's correct.
And describe, and we kind of have to start from the beginning on these things. So the crew chief does what, sits where, and if you have a 3-person crew in a helicopter, just explain that to me. What is normal operating procedure?
So the technical term for crew chief is non-rated crew members. You have a set of wings. You are part of the flight crew, but you are not trained to fly. So you are a mechanic and a flight attendant that in combat has a machine gun out the window. Mm-hmm. But you serve, several things. We can assist in navigation. We assist on the radios occasionally when the crew is overtasked. And several other things. For a part of the time, it was a medevac mission, so you may be handing medical supplies or IVs as well. But anything that goes on behind the pilots, the crew chief is in charge of.
You told me earlier today, and I want to talk about it on radio so people can hear this, that part of what you're hearing that you think might be leading to a certain level of misinformation is the term training exercise.
That's correct.
Just walk me through, when you hear training exercise, what does that mean to you, and how do you think that people can kind of misperceive what that means.
So I think if there weren't a specific mission, especially for that unit, if they're not carrying a VIP from point A to point B, then they're calling it, or at least the press seems to be calling it, a training mission. But there would be two types of missions where you're not tasked. One would be a training mission in which one of the pilots would be an instructor pilot, and they might practice different procedures and emergency procedures. Then there is a proficiency flight where neither pilot needs to be an instructor, but you go out and accomplish the task that you would do normally flying just to maintain proficiency. So that could be flying under goggles. It could be landing at a grass airstrip at, say, Fort A.P. Hill, or just flying around, or flying under instrument conditions, even though you're not under instrument, just practicing those conditions. So I think it's yet to be officially determined, was this a training flight or was this a proficiency flight?
You traveled, in your experience, you did these same flight paths. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How many of these helicopter flights would you say happen in any given week or any given month or even any given day?
In any given day, you've probably got between 50 and 100 of those. On a good day. Now, remember, those routes are only open when you have visual flight rules, when you can see everything. If it's foggy, if it's raining, if it's cloudy, if you're near the clouds, those don't happen. But on a clear day like today, you could have, and it's not just the military. You've got the D.C. Police, U.S. Park Police, Maryland State Police, and then a slew of medevacs that go back and forth to the hospitals using those routes.
So, Dee, why is it, and forgive I feel like I'm going to ask questions that might seem a little ignorant to you, but I think it's important for the listening audience. So why is it necessary for these helicopters to be in DCA airspace? In other words, why do they have to navigate around commercial aircraft at all?
Well, it's just a matter of there's not enough real estate. So for those that don't know, DC is right there on the river, and nearby you've got Dulles, you've got Baltimore, you've got Andrews Air Force Base.
Right.
And then Quantico actually has a long strip for loading the presidential helicopters on the C-17s and whatnot. So you've got just those aircraft, or those airspaces that are all controlled, and you've got to be able to navigate between points in the city while avoiding that air traffic. So it necessitates those low-level helicopter routes. New York City has the same that go up near the Statue of Liberty, and I'm sure Chicago probably has some routes like that. But anywhere you've got a large concentration of airports, but a necessity to move helicopters, you're going to have routes of that type.
And has it not been considered problematic before we saw this horrific crash? In other words, I don't know that I could recall a helicopter crashing into a commercial flight ever in the history of American aviation. Maybe it's happened. I don't recall it. So was it just not considered to be an issue so long as we followed the rules, followed the parameters, and everybody did their job?
Well, it's very structured, and you didn't have the benefit of most of that radio traffic and everything that's out there. But let's say if we take off from Quantico or Davidson, because this is where these guys came from, Davidson, which is in the area. It's barely off the river. You come up the river and then to D.C. So once you take off from Davidson, you establish contact with DCA well before you've gotten there for permission to enter the routes. Then along the routes, there are several checkpoints, Key Bridge, Cabin John, CIA, different things that you call out. So even if they don't have you on radar because you're low, that controller has a mental picture of where you are. And generally, you've communicated where you're going ultimately. Then there's another set of areas or airspaces called zones, which are over the city. And not many people use those. Only D.C. police, Capitol Police, or maybe the helicopters going to medevac scenes. But so that's another separate set of low-level areas that are controlled by that same controller.
Dee, do you have a little bit? I have to take a quick break. Do you have a little bit more time, or do you have to go?
No, that's fine. I'm parked. So
okay, all right. So we're gonna ask you to hold on for just a moment because I have so many questions. We have a helicopter crew chief who's on the line with us, who has done these very same flight paths, who understands that dynamic more than any of us. unless you are a similar crew chief or a pilot of a helicopter. And we've got questions for him to try to get to the bottom of how in the world all of this happened. When we come back, I'll ask him the very important question, what he thinks are the most telling dynamics or the most telling information that we currently have about this that would indicate to him why this would have happened. It's 31 after the hour. It's time for news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And an update today from local officials on operations following that mid-air collision in Washington, D.C. John Donnelly, chief of the D.C. Fire and EMS Department, saying hundreds of personnel working on the site.
We have recovered 41 sets of remains, and 28 of those victims have been positively identified. And as of 6 a.m. this morning, next of kin notifications have been made to 18 families.
Nashville considering a lawsuit to block the illegal immigration bill just passed in the special session of the General Assembly that includes making it a felony for any elected official to vote to create sanctuary cities or policies. Here's Metro Legal Director Wally Dietz.
It is unprecedented, and it's a totally different situation. And also the threat of removing from office for a legislative vote.
The ACLU lining up against the bill, too. Governor Lee has yet to sign it. He's in Washington, D.C. today, where the White House hosted governors of states with school choice to join President Trump in a discussion marking National School Choice Week. Federal employees have to stop putting their pronouns at the bottom of their emails by the close of business today. Part of the Trump administration seeking to strike all language stemming from diversity, equity, and inclusion in federal discourse, communications, and publications. It's unclear what penalties, if any, federal workers could face if they fail to remove them. And humane societies around the country warning about a new scam targeting people who have lost their pets. Jim Ryan says the trap is set when someone looking for a lost dog or cat posts a phone number on social media.
That's exactly what Jordan Myers of Austin did when her cat disappeared last month. This week, she got a call that appeared to come from the local Humane Society. Her cat had been found and was hurt.
They asked me for $3,100 for the surgery.
Before paying, she went to the animal shelter to learn that it was a ripoff. Sarah Hamill is with the Austin Humane Society.
We're never going to ask for somebody to pay for something ahead of time. We're in the business of saving lives.
She's seen a rise in this particularly cruel scam.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Got a crash 24 westbound at Bell Road. And then 40 eastbound after McCrory Lane. Left shoulder block there in Pegram. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for the Glock Story. You know, February is the month that you do fun things with your significant other. And what could be more fun than a couples training session at the one and only Glock Store in their incredible Shoot 270 indoor shooting rooms? February is the perfect month, and the perfect day is in the perfect month. So here's the deal. Book a couples shooting session at shoot270.com. When you show up, just mention my name, Matt Murphy. And it's two for the price of one. Two shooters for the price of one shooter. Now, if your partner has not been to Shoot 270, you might have to explain that this isn't some sort of lane range where you're stuck between partitions and you can't communicate and you can't talk to one another and you're shooting next to some stranger. That's not the deal, folks. There's nothing fun about that. This is a private shooting session with a personal shooting instructor, a professional that will tailor the session to your current shooting level and the level of your partner. whatever your level is now, they're going to up your game with your shooting session, and you both finish your session better, more confident shooters than you started. That's 2 shooters for the price of 1. Book today at Glock Store, shoot270.com. Mention my name, shoot270.com. It's all month long, minutes away from the airport. Worth the drive from anywhere. It's the one and only Glock Store. Super Talk 99.7 WT and Matt Murphy and you. I want to be swift to the phones with D holding on. He is he's a crew chief. I described you as a helicopter pilot last night, and that was that's incorrect. You were a crew chief. What is the proper nomenclature, D?
Crew chief is perfect. Non-rated crew member is the official, but crew chief is what everybody says.
But you have wild experience in these flights specific to the Potomac River. So a couple of questions, because I know you're busy and I know you're limited on time. So you talked about, I asked you about the necessity of doing these things. Is there a necessity that these helicopters cross the flight path? And in the normal operational day, what is that like, and what changed to our knowledge in this circumstance?
Yeah, those routes are designed with maximum altitudes to deconflict aircraft. So I think as the media is widely reporting now, 200 is the maximum altitude to cross that area. And that's to deconflict based on the approach path for that runway. And of course, that's just it's necessary to make those routes contiguous. Now, one thing that we would do as a crew, being in controlled airspace or even uncontrolled airspace, is if we're going to cross the center line of a runway, even if we're cleared, the pilot in command is going to announce, hey, we're crossing the center line. And, guys on both sides of the aircraft are going to, check and say, okay, there's nobody departing. And the other might say, okay, there's nobody inbound. So, there's definitely a positive exchange of information that, hey, we know we're crossing a center line and we don't see anything coming.
And you're doing inside the helicopter. So,
yep, absolutely.
So people are asking, is it normal to have 3 crew members and not more?
A minimum for a nighttime flight with goggles is 3. It's better to have 4.
Okay.
It's not required. And honestly, if a Black Hawk is out flying in the daytime, a sunny day, just getting a proficiency flight, they don't need a crew chief at all. Now, the risk numbers go up for that. There's a risk matrix, and depending on what you're doing and how many people you have, but you can fly a Black Hawk with just 2 pilots if you're just out doing chingos or things like that.
D, what about you mentioned the different elevations that you would normally fly. We're being told that this helicopter was at 350 feet. That's above. Is that above standard operating procedure?
And in my recollection, 200 is the max through there. So absolutely. When you get up north of DC, I think you can get up to around 300 or 350 over 495. But you're way away from the airports at that time. But yeah, the 200 would be the max. So 300 would likely be a problem.
Is that the biggest concern when you look at this situation, given the number of flights that you've been on in that specific area? I mean, I would expect you've crossed this flight path any number of times in your experience.
Yeah, and just thinking back, we didn't see operations from that runway as much as we did from the other direction. And the other direction is probably, if your listeners fly regularly into DCA, when you come down over the rivers and you can see the monuments out the window, there's a part called Gravelly Point, and it's a really good plane spotting thing. But you come in from north to south generally, and for some reason, I don't know if it was the winds or what was going on, they were operating from a different direction. So the way they were landing that night is unusual from my experience, but not impossible. I don't know what the reason for having the traffic flow that way was.
So we've been told we're getting a lot of a flood of information regarding air traffic control and what was and was not told to the helicopter. Just without leading you in any particular direction, what have you heard and what looks like normal operating procedure and what seems odd, if anything?
Well, as we talked about yesterday, normally there's one person in that tower dedicated to the helicopter routes and another dedicated to arrivals at DCA. To me, it appeared evident that it was the same person handling both stations, which to me is very unusual, even late at night. And you can definitely, those guys are professionals. I've never had an issue. I think that they're some of the hardest working, smartest people in the world. And, he sounded maybe he was a bit overtasked, but definitely there was not a second person there when there should have been.
All right, so walk me through what normal would have been like on one of your flights. So you're just communicating with someone at air traffic. So why is it that the military – let me take a step back. The military is communicating with a commercial air traffic control tower, or maybe I don't understand what I need to understand. Why would the military be communicating with DCA at all? Just start there.
Well, so every airport, DCA or BNA or, whatever, owns the airspace immediately around the airport. And then as you get further away from the airport, it's less controlled at lower altitudes.
Mm-hmm.
So, an airliner, for example, when it takes off from BNA, talks to the tower first, then it talks to another place called departures, then it talks to the centers that control high altitude traffic across the country. As it descends, it starts talking to the approach for the receiving airport, which hands it off to the tower for the receiving airport. Okay, so whenever you're flying fast and high, you're always under control. Lower level operations are only controlled, and there are different classes of airspace, DCA being one of the top classes. So anything that moves around DCA is going to talk to DCA because they own the sky there. So whether you're civilian or military, those controllers own it. Now, if you're flying out over, Lebanon, where there's a little airport but no control tower, it's sort of on the pilots to talk to the airport on their frequency and to talk to each other, but no one's actually in control of that airspace.
So,
does that make sense?
No, it does. So is there no mechanism within the Black Hawk itself to alert the crew that they're too high, that their elevation is above what it should be? I mean, because it seems to me that for whatever reason, they did not get that alert from air traffic control, correct?
So they didn't, ATC didn't let them know, which I think commonly that would happen. This was a Lima model Black Hawk, and that tells me that instead of, like you see on a modern airliner or a modern helicopter, a glass cockpit, all computer screens, these are still the old gauges. So you've got a separate altimeter, you've got a radar altimeter, you've got a, vertical horizon or artificial horizon. You've got all kinds of different gauges. And you can go through and set bugs to kind of let you know what your maximum altitude you want. But on that route, those chains, it's really upon non-flying pilot and the flying pilot to watch the radar altimeter and just be aware of what altitude they're running at that time.
And so it is their first priority, and then it is a priority, one would think, of the, in a normal circumstance, the dedicated individual in the air traffic control center that is following all of the helicopter traffic.
That's correct.
In a normal situation. So I'm going to ask you to do something that I don't think guys that do these types of things like to do, but your best guess, I mean, have you ever had an experience where you were 150 feet variance of elevation and nobody noticed it?
Not me, but a sister aircraft in Iraq we were on one of the last missions as Iraq closed down. The two pilots were engaged, I hate to admit it, and this is in the other aircraft, it's only anecdotal, were engaged in an argument, and they were slowly drifting towards the ground. And it wasn't until 50 feet above the ground when one of the crew chiefs asked what in the world they were doing, did they realize what was happening and pull up. So especially in low light situations, you just don't have, as good visibility, and with all those lights, something may have distracted them. And so, 100 feet can get away from you pretty fast. So, it's not unheard of. It can definitely happen.
We don't hear, or we have not heard communication, at least I've not, from the helicopter to air traffic control.
Yeah, and you might not, because they should generally be talking on a UHF channel, and those aren't available to civilian radios. That's only a military government band. ATC has it, but civilians and those ATC websites and stuff that people listen to wouldn't generally hear the communications. Now, when the tower keys up and talks to the military aircraft, generally that transmission goes across both bands so the airliners can hear it and the military guys can hear it, but you might not hear any of the responses on the recordings that are available. Now, once the FAA lets the traffic tapes go, you might be able to hear it.
So, and there's so many different ways to go here. So, in your analysis and based on your experience in these helicopters doing these types of flights, what's your best analysis as to how this could have potentially happened?
Well, I mean, we're never going to know until we know, and you hate to make a knee-jerk.
I mean, I understand that.
Just from my experience, I think there are multiple failures likely. Understaffing in the control tower, and I feel sorry for that gentleman who was working the tower that night. I'm sure he is carrying, 68 bodies on his shoulders right now, and he feels terrible. And anybody would, but it's not his fault, the staffing, and I think he probably did the best job he could. But I think that the FAA might have failed everybody by not having adequate staffing, and who knows what was going on in that aircraft at the time. I mean, that's the unknown, and we may never know. But
are those Black Hawks equipped with voice cockpit in the cockpit?
Everyone I've ever been in has had it. I don't know why they don't have it in that one, or they're saying they don't have it. It might be because that VIP model is a bit heavier, and maybe they've had to, discard some things that they thought weren't necessary. But every aircraft I've operated in, as I recall, had those. So I'm not sure why that's not the case here.
I know it's early on to ask a question like this, and I appreciate D is with us. D has flown these flights numerous times over his 10+ years of experience in Virginia. He's now in the state of Tennessee. D, early to ask this, but with this happening, I mean, I guess I would say with the number of flights that have been done in the past, I don't know that we've quite answered whether or not it is absolutely necessary for helicopter traffic to fly across the descending flight path. I mean, would you consider it necessary in that area for that to happen in the future?
I mean, I think it has to, or it's just going to cause a number of other problems, because those routes were designed to be the least intrusive, I believe. And this is a unique situation, and it's a tragic situation. And I'm sure there's going to be some change, but I really don't know what, because, you know, all the air crews, be it Army or law enforcement or medevac, they are all professionals. And, you know, this has been going on for years without incident. And so, you know, it's a shame that it happened, but I just don't think that they'll ever be able to justify eliminating those routes, because too many life-saving, you know, the medevacs alone, it's critical for that.
Well, but time. I mean, I'm not, you know, arguing with you about it, because I get what you're saying. But at the same time, I mean, you know, how important is a training mission for the military when we just saw 68 people die?
Well, that's true. I mean, they may limit. They may say, hey, you know, or you have to get a special clearance if you're going to do that. Right. You know, that type of thing. Maybe somebody at a higher level is going to have to sign off on that mission. Right. And maybe they'll say, okay, for proficiency, we're not going to do it. But then on the other hand, you've got to keep people trained on those routes, because you need to be proficient on those routes to operate on those routes. So, right. But, you know, in typical government fashion, somebody's going to probably overreact, and it's going to be painful for a while, but we'll see. But, you know,
in the modern world, Dee, and you and I don't know each other well. I want to get to know you better, because you seem so knowledgeable and sensible about these things. But in the modern world, there's wild speculation, obviously, on social media platforms. And a lot of the speculation has centered around whether or not this potentially could have been intentional. And I have to ask you the question, what do you see in some of the video surveillance that we have seen? I mean, I'm not asking you about intentionality. I'm asking you about what have you seen in that video evidence that would indicate to you what was going on in the minutes or the seconds before impact? Because a lot of people are saying, well, in this video that I saw, it looks like the helicopter just flew right into the airplane. And honestly, to someone that doesn't know, it does kind of look like that.
Yeah, you know, I can see that. But I'm going to tell you, I've known hundreds of pilots over my life, and, you know, if somebody could take that Black Hawk and hit that CRJ with accuracy, they're probably better than Chuck Yeager. I mean, it would take a pretty good pilot to do that on purpose. You know, again, speculation is always bad in these things, but it has to be, in my opinion, some sort of distraction in the cockpit. Maybe they were looking at the other aircraft that was nearby, you know, or they were focusing on, because of the direction the aircraft was headed, you know, it's likely they were setting up for landing at Davidson Army Airfield. So maybe somebody grabbed a checklist and was getting ready to start the before landing checklist for Davidson. Maybe they were tuning one of the other radios to Davidson's frequency. You know, something could have distracted them inside. But, I mean, I just don't, you know, some of the Malaysia flight, this was on purpose kind of things, maybe. But I'm telling you, it'd be impossible to smack anything moving with a Black Hawk. Those, you know, that's ludicrous to me.
Incredible information. Is there anything I've missed before we let you go, Dee?
No, I mean, you know, it's good vigilance. I hate that it happened. Those are the most professional aviators in the world, some of the best air traffic controllers in the world. It's, you know, I would encourage, if you're ever on vacation in D.C., go to that gravelly point, especially if you like aircraft, but just go to that gravelly point and just see for yourself. I mean, it's a plane landing every 3 minutes right over your head. It's almost like that St. Martin Beach, you know, where the people gather and watch planes land. It's really interesting to watch. It's a nice park with people grilling out. But if you ever get a chance to visit it, you'll sort of understand, you know, what goes on. But it's just a neat place to go anyway. But, I mean, thanks for, you know, giving a platform to sort of dispel some of the crazy, you know, things that people are saying out there, because it's getting pretty ridiculous.
Well, like I told you earlier in our call, I mean, you know, in times of man-made or unfortunate disaster, we try to make sense of the senseless, and sometimes a lot of this seems senseless. I mean, my first reaction was, how in the world could this happen? And I think we're going to spend days and weeks, if not years, trying to piece together exactly that. I'll lean on you as my expert on this matter. Dee, thank you for the time. I know you've got a busy afternoon, and you spent way more time than I promised. I promised I'd get you out of here about 10 minutes ago, so thank you for that.
No, you're good. You're good, and I'm glad to help anytime. Glad to talk to you.
This guy's a resource. Now, I've done the background on him. He is choosing to remain somewhat anonymous because he's got a job here locally, and he wanted to be able to speak freely. And we're going to talk with Dee down the road about DEI initiatives within the military. He's got a wealth of information about that will blow your mind. We'll get your calls momentarily. We're very late. It's 55 after the hour on Super Talk. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Tennessee Men's Clinic. Tennessee Men's Clinic has two, count them two, locations to serve you. They cranked up that OG location in Midtown in 2014. Just a couple of years ago, they put together a Franklin/Cool Springs location at Tennessee Men's Clinic. Why? To serve the guys south of Nashville just a little bit better. Guys, if you're feeling low down and sluggish, if you don't know why, I would encourage you to get some of your numbers checked at Tennessee Men's Clinic. It's as simple as a telephone call and an appointment today. You make that appointment, you go in, you'll talk to one of their qualified urologists. Obviously, they're discreet and professional, and they'll get to the bottom of what's going on with you. Do you know your numbers? Do you know your T level, for example? This could cause you significant issues, specifically in the bedroom. And if you have bedroom issues, it's time to solve them with Tennessee Men's Clinic. Guys, don't spend a moment longer worrying about this. Let's get it handled, and let's take care of our business at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com to find out many of their varied solutions for you, or give them a call and schedule an appointment today at 615-208-9090, 208-9090.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes and an update from local officials on operations following the midair collision in Washington, D.C. John Donnelly, chief of the D.C. Fire and EMS Department.
The salvage crews have begun to arrive on the scene, and they're assessing the work that's going to be needed to recover the aircraft from the water. We expect those operations to begin no later than tomorrow afternoon.
41 sets of remains have been recovered. Meanwhile, President Trump says there are new flight restrictions for helicopters near Reagan National.
We're taking actions that this can't happen again. The helicopter, as you know, was out of its zone. It shouldn't have been out of its zone. It was at the same height as the airplane. Now, the airplane was coming down on its track. It was perfect. It was in perfect shape coming down, and something was in its way. You can't let that happen.
The Army Black Hawk that crashed into the passenger jet was supposed to stay at 200 feet and remain right over the eastern bank of the river, but there are indications it diverted from the proper altitude and course. President Trump says he's not holding back on the tariffs planned for Canada, China, Mexico, saying it is economic and they're to blame for the nation's deadly drug addiction crisis.
In one case, they're sending massive amounts of fentanyl, killing hundreds of thousands of people a year with the fentanyl. And in the other two cases, they're making it possible for this poison to get in.
Here in Tennessee, House Education Subcommittee Chair Scott Sapicki telling WTN's Chad Benson show the next education issue lawmakers will take up is designed to help kids focus better in class and improve their social skills.
So we're going to run a bill this year in the General Assembly that at a bare minimum, a local school district has to have a policy that during instructional time, the students cannot have their cell phones in their hands. They have to be put away somewhere.
Yeah, he says there'll be penalties for violations included as a way to enforce it. And here in Nashville, Metro Police Chief John Drake announcing a new shift that he says will help reduce response time for non-emergency calls. He says this new D shift will include 41 officers, 5 sergeants, and 1 lieutenant to provide help to officers already out there between the hours of noon and 10:30 at night, 7 days a week. The idea is that these officers can help out during high call volume and help out securing large crime scenes, protests, and other policing efforts. And just ahead of the Super Bowl, some encouraging news about the NFL player safety from the league. Here's Sherry Preston.
With just one game left in the NFL season, the league says concussions in pro football games were down 17% compared to last season. The league says some of the biggest benefits were in the revamped kickoffs. Concussions connected to those plays fell 43% compared to recent years.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, in the airport area, police reporting a crash going to be Murfreesboro Pike, just east of Old Murfreesboro Pike. In Clarksville, a crash reported 24 eastbound at Rossview Road. And in Madison, a crash, Conference Drive at Gallatin Pike North. Antioch, it's on the right shoulder, 24 westbound at Haywood Lane. Police reporting an accident. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Look, if you want to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs. If you're looking at the stock market today, we've broken a few eggs. You know, there you go. 8 minutes after 4 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I just don't look. I use the, when there's market volatility, I think of the fabulous television series Sanford and Son and the great Fred Sanford, who, when he received bills that he could not pay, he said, put them back in the mailbox. That's what he told Lamont to do. So if you're looking at your 401k, if you're looking at the stock market today, and you're scratching your head and wondering why in the world is all of this happening, just put it back in the mailbox. Don't worry about it. It'll be okay. Obviously, Donald Trump announcing a 25% tariff on Canada had somewhat of a negative effect with the stock markets, to say the least, toward the end of the market day. But I have no fear that this is the beginning of a negotiation, not the end of one. And I know that Canada would be greatly impacted by the tariffs placed on them. And I don't think they want to get into a tariff war. And I think Donald Trump is playing that card, understanding that he has the better hand, he has the better pocket pair, he has the upper hand, and that at the end of the day, which is not a preferred phrase of the Matt Murphy Show, but I said it anyway, all will be well in the stock market once all of this gets resolved. So cooler heads will at some point down the road prevail, despite the fact that he announced that these things are happening, lest Canada acquiesce on the immigration front. So we got that going on. We have and 9832 is exactly right. 9832 says, looks like a buying opportunity to me. Amen, brother. I mean, you know what? When somebody's selling, I'm buying. That sounds good to me as well. All right, a number of you on the phone with a furtherance of our conversation with our helicopter crew chief that we had on, D, who has flown up and down the Potomac. We're going to get to your calls momentarily. I promise you that. We will further that conversation. My biggest takeaway from the conversation with D is simple, that it would have been more difficult, that accidental crashes like this are just that. They are accidents. They are a coming together of events that have to happen in exact and real time in order for something like this to occur. What D told us was that he could not fathom a way where someone piloting a Black Hawk helicopter could intentionally crash into a commercial flight if they wanted to time it exactly right, to do so in a way that they understood that they would not be interfered with in any other fact. I mean, I get that too. I know many of you want to believe that this was intentional. I don't see it that way. I think it was a horrible coming together of a couple of circumstances, primarily the understaffing of the air traffic control tower, the fact that you did not have a dedicated traffic controller on helicopter traffic, obviously, because you just had one guy doing both jobs. And secondarily, obviously, something happened within the cockpit of that helicopter that allowed them to get up to 350 feet of elevation without knowing it, and there was no one there to act as a backup, a backstop to say, hey, you're too high, you need to get back down to 200 feet or below because you're interfering with commercial airline traffic. I also did not get a good answer to my question why they have to do this. Dee did say this is just not a problem. And it's not been looked at as a problem because they believe that they had it under control. Well, I suppose that it could be said that it was under control in the sense that they've been doing this for a long time. They've been flying helicopters of all stripes around DCA for a long time. When's the last time you heard about a helicopter crashing into a commercial airliner? Never. But there is a first time for everything. I fear that there will be a knee-jerk reaction regarding this in terms of flights coming in and out of DCA, coming in and out of that runway 33, which was a lesser used runway than runway 1. We'll continue to dissect all of these things with you on the phones as well, but that is happening after a visit with Jay St. Clair. It's FriJay. I can't even go quick and confuse Chris Webber. He's on top of it. I can't even intentionally try to get him. I love that, Webber.
I just do my job.
Amen. Speaking of doing his job, he is a legal mind unlike any other in the United States of America. I absolutely love this man. He is my best friend. He's my legal correspondent. I would call him my lawyer. He's also my gambling buddy, and he's a good Tennessee man. He's Jay St. Clair joining us. What is up, Jay?
Hey, buddy.
How are you?
You know, man, if I were any better, I would be Munson.
He's got it good right now.
I bet he's getting paid, and he's loved, and he knows he's loved, and we love pets, and this is it's just part of it.
He is such a good. Let me tell you, Jay. I mean, since you brought it up, he is such a good patient. I've never met a dog that was that good of a patient because. He has to wear his little donut to keep him from messing around with his incision, and he does it. He doesn't mind it, and you tell him to.
So he's got the cone of shame.
Well, he doesn't have the cone. They don't. We had this conversation earlier in the week. They don't call it a cone anymore, Jay.
Oh, okay.
They call it an e-collar.
Oh.
And I did not ask the woman. I wish that I did. But I can only assume that they started calling it the e-collar because, it used to be called the cone. Oh, yeah. Well, we got to put him in a cone. But I think so many people have started calling it the cone of shame that vets don't like it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so they've changed the terminology.
That's funny.
And so when I went to pick him up the other evening, she said, well, he's in an e-collar right now. We're going to need to keep him in an e-collar. And I didn't understand what she was talking about.
Right.
And then finally I saw it, and I said, we're not going to keep that on him. I'm going to put him in a donut. And she begged me to do it. And I said, well, you're just wasting it. But yeah, they originally had him in one of those, and we bought him one of these little, I call it the donut. It's like you're flying on an airplane, and you got one of those little things. But you put that on him, and it's just enough where he can't get back.
He can't get there. It's kind of like an insurance collar. If you get rear-ended in a car, you put one of these fake things around your neck.
Okay, you just inspired me. From now on, I'm going to call it the Ted Kennedy.
Is that way? Did he wear that after he drove off the bridge?
Oh yeah, he didn't have it. He didn't have it initially.
Only when he's on TV.
When he got on TV and when he was apologizing to the nation for what happened, that's when he was trying to draw a little sympathy, apparently. But no, you tell Munson it's time to go to bed. You got to get in your crate because we got to, it's rest, 2 weeks of rest. And he just kind of gives you that look like, really, Daddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, got to do it, buddy. And he goes on in there. So thank you for asking about him. I appreciate that, man.
Yes, sir.
Well, Jay, I mean, it's kind of a dealer's choice. With Donald Trump, there is not a lack of things to talk about from the legal front.
No, I'll tell you what, they sure did learn a lot from the first time around, Matt. I mean, the way they've executed all this has just been amazing. They knew what they wanted to do, and they knew how to execute it. And, whether you agree with the policies or not, it's a different matter, but you just have to be astounded by the execution, the level of execution, how quickly they're doing things, and frankly, I think how properly they're doing.
Well, and you and I talked last week during our FriJay visit about birthright citizenship,
right?
And in that conversation, we kind of hit around this idea that they had an agenda. They were well prepared to execute their agenda,
Absolutely.
And we could have political discussions on my radio show about whether or not we're overusing executive orders. But man, oh man, Donald Trump decided that he was going to use them to his advantage and kind of flood the zone and force his detract. He knew that people would come back at him. He knew that lawsuits would come back at him.
Of course, absolutely.
But it's amazing how they're flooding the zone. And he's like, all right, which one you want? Which one you want to pick on? Which one you want?
No, and I think part of it too is he realizes he really probably only has 2 years, and a lot of these things take a long time to play out in the legal system. So they've got to hit the ground running, and they have hit the ground running.
No question about it. All right, let's start with the return to work order.
Okay.
I'm curious your thoughts. An executive order. I was fascinated to learn the percentages of government employees that have been.
It's criminal.
That have been working at home. I mean,
no, it's criminal.
And and I understand that some very loudly say, I do a great job at home. I do great work at home. And I'm certain that there are some people that do. But in any given system, there's a bunch of people that are taking advantage of the situation, aren't they?
Well, that's right. And yes, he has the authority to do this. Of course, we've seen this all playing out in the private sector big time since the pandemic. My firm deals with this a lot. But an employer, including the federal government, is absolutely within their right to say, no, you have to physically come to work. And here's what happens, man. And people learned about this. Well, coming back from the pandemic. Some people will claim, oh, well, I need an accommodation because of some medical condition. I'm disabled and I'm not able to come to the office. The accommodation that I'm asking for is to be able to work from home. And they have to then demonstrate that they can still perform the essential functions of the job from home. Now, that will play out on an employee-by-employee basis. But I guarantee you, we will see thousands, if not tens of thousands, of applications for a disability accommodation to be able to work from home. But the broad blanket is certainly legal. With one possible exception, one of the things I saw what Biden did on the way out is they hurried up and signed some union contracts and put this work from home provisions in the union contracts. That's going to be dealt with a little bit different legally. And we'll see how that plays out. But that's not true for most of the federal workforce. So, no, he'll be able to do it. He can do it. And now it'll just be played out on an employee-by-employee basis.
So what do you make of, and I guess it's a related subject when we talk about this opportunity that he's giving folks. If you don't like all of this, you just reply to this email with the word resign. And you know what? You got till September 30th, and then you can find yourself other employment.
Yeah, no, that's right. And that's a very common thing that's been around for decades in the private. And if a company is going to downsize, and they know that they're going to downsize, then they have an early option. They give people the opportunity to go out on an early exit plan, severance pay. I mean, it's voluntary. So that concept's been around forever. And I think it's smart. And frankly, 8 months of severance is a lot.
It's pretty good.
I mean, it's rich. But what I tell my clients in these situations, you want to make it enough money that it's really hard for people to turn it down. Because here's the deal, man. Here's what I say to clients. They got somebody that's working for them that's not happy, that's suing them. And I say, well, why don't you pay them some severance? Pay them a year's severance, and you'll be done with them. I said, well, I don't want to pay them a year's severance. I said, well, here's the deal. You're going to keep them working here. If you don't, you're going to pay them a year's salary.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to get a year's work out of them?
Right.
And they said, no. Yeah, well, so you're going to pay them a year. They're going to pay these people 8 months' salary.
Right.
And it's either going to be, and then they're still here, or you pay them 8 months' salary and they're gone. They are intending to downsize the workforce, man. There is no doubt about that. And at some point, we can talk about this. I've been saying for years that 50 cents out of every dollar I send to the government goes down a rat hole.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that happen in Jefferson County, Alabama, which is the county in which Birmingham was located a few years ago. I don't know, 10 years ago. So the county went bankrupt, man.
Yep.
They went bankrupt. They filed for bankruptcy. And our friend David Carrington was the chairman of the county commission. And their solution to coming out of bankruptcy was to cut the budget by 50%.
I need to get him on the radio. We need to talk about this in Nashville as a microcosm of what could happen. I mean, you've encouraged me to do it on several occasions. I've got to do it because David is such a wealth of information, and he did it. And people scream just like they're going to do at the federal level. People screamed and howled. Jefferson County is never going to be able to function. And
I think their services are better now than they were before.
And he cut 50%.
He cut by 50%. Here's the other example, and trust me, I guarantee the two of them have talked about this. Twitter. Elon Musk buys Twitter. He cut that like about 70%. It was at least 50. I think it was more than that. And you remember everybody saying, "Oh, well, Twitter will go dark." I mean, there's no way they can run it.
2 weeks.
Yeah, then well, it's done. Twitter will shut down. It was better than how it's ever been.
Well, and we'll get this howling and screaming about the federal government as well, particularly from federal government employees that seem, and I don't, it's not my nature to cast aspersions, Jay. You know me, right? but
it's a good thing you're not under oath right now. Yeah.
But if I didn't know any better, these folks seem really entitled to their job. We'll continue the discussion in just a moment. Your calls and your questions. If you have a question for our legal expert, Jay St. Clair, now's the time to do it. FriJay is in progress on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The team of audiologists want to talk with you at Brentwood Hearing Center. Their leadership team recently attended the launch of the revolutionary Phonak Sphere. What an incredible device. It is dedicated to helping patients like you hear well in situations where there is extensive background noise. If this is you and you've noticed that you can't hear when you're at the ball game, can't hear at dinner parties or whatnot, contact Brentwood Hearing Center, sit down with them, allow them to put you through your paces with regard to a hearing test and see if the Phonak Sphere is right for you or another hearing device is right for you. Brentwood Hearing Center, for 30 years, they've been serving this community, and they do a great job at doing so. They can help you hear better. Let's get back to life again by hearing better. They like to say better hearing for a better life at Brentwood Hearing Center. Here's the number, 615-377-0420, 377-0420, or go online to BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's BrentwoodHearingCenter.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Nashville is working on a lawsuit to block implementation of that illegal immigration bill passed in the special session of the General Assembly. President Trump says he will impose tariffs on our three biggest trading partners tomorrow, and that's not all. These stories and more at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. More news coming up in mere moments on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Our good friend Richard, who is a regular listener, my good friend from back in Birmingham. Well, I don't know that he's in Birmingham. I think he might be in Montgomery. Jay, is Richard in Montgomery?
No, I think he lives in Opelika.
Oh, Opelika. He has made a comment, and I want you to respond to his comment. And his comment, this was directly to me and you. It said, well, it looks like the Matt Murphy Show allows Jay to work from home.
We
do.
I'm not a W-2 employee.
Well, Jay.
Volunteers can work from anywhere they want to work from.
That's true.
Well, if I ever get on the payroll, I will be in studio every Friday. But Richard will be negotiating my salary.
I've already told you, Jay, we are happy to double your salary anytime you want us to.
That's pretty funny, Richard. Richard is funny.
He is a good guy. He's a funny guy and a very smart man and a prominent figure in Alabama. So, Jay, how many? I mean, I guess that's kind of a loaded question, but I'll ask this question before we get to news because I just want to kind of finish the thought.
All right.
There will be lawsuits, in your estimation, over the effort to cut government and to force people to come back to work. I mean, I'm assuming they're already coming, right? And
there will be lawsuits. I don't think anybody, I don't think any serious person will say that the president does not have the authority to issue the executive order that he did, because the executive order already anticipates requests for accommodations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody will challenge that, Matt. I think the way that's going to play out is on an employee-by-employee basis. I just don't think anybody's going to come in and say my word, Matt, that's the way we did things for 200 years.
That's right. No, agreed.
So no, I don't think anybody's going to say that the president didn't have the authority to do that. That's going to just play out on an employee by employee basis. And the real interesting legal issue there is these union contracts.
Because those carry a little more weight from a legal perspective, I would assume.
Yeah, well, they're a contract. That's right. They're a contract. So
even
those people have.
I'm going to ask you this question after the news because I think it's an interesting road to explore. What are the differences between the union's relationship with a company or a business versus a union's relationship with the government, if anything? So we'll ask Jay that question in just a moment because he's the man to ask. 31 after the hour. Right now, it's time for news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, Nashville's working on a lawsuit to block the state from implementing the illegal immigration bill passed in the special session of the General Assembly. Once Governor Lee signs it into law, Metro Legal Director Wally Dietz.
It would be an understatement to say that we have grave concerns about the constitutionality of those provisions. They appear to violate hundreds of years of law and common law and constitutional law.
Now, this bill makes it a felony for elected officials to vote to create sanctuary cities and policies. An update today from local officials on operations following that mid-air collision in D.C. John Donnelly, who says salvage crews have arrived to help with recovery.
We expect to recover all of the bodies. We have that's why our teams are still working. We're going to have to work with the salvage company to do some of that work.
41 sets of remains have been recovered so far. President Trump says he will impose 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and 10% on China tomorrow for the multi-billion-dollar deficit and for their roles in the flow of illegal immigrants and fentanyl into the U.S.
Eventually, we're going to put tariffs on chips. We're going to put tariffs on oil and gas. That'll happen fairly soon. I think around the 18th of February. And we're going to put a lot of tariffs on steel.
And the Trump administration aiming to remove several people in the senior ranks of the FBI.
Sources say multiple senior officials in the FBI have been told they must leave voluntarily or they'll be demoted or fired. Those who've been given that instruction include at least 5 people who hold the title of executive director or special agent in charge. It's the latest example of attempted house cleaning by Trump appointees for career roles that typically do not turn over from administration to administration. Good government experts worry it will lead to those positions becoming permanently politicized.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, police reporting a crash in the airport area. This is going to be Murfreesboro Pike, just east of Old Murfreesboro Pike. Also, Dallas Donaldson Pike, south of I-40 near BNA. Police reporting a crash at that location. In Clarksville, a crash. Police reporting 24 eastbound at Rossview Road, and in Antioch, an accident on the right shoulder, 24 westbound at Haywood Lane. Then in Pegram, left shoulder blocked by a crash, 40 eastbound after McCrory Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy here for Efficient Heating and Cooling. You know, the temperature goes up, the temperature goes down. It gets up to 65 degrees. You want to turn a little AC on. It gets down to 20 degrees. You want to turn a little heater on, and that's putting a strain on your unit. Have you maintained that unit? Have you noticed that something isn't quite right with it? One way or the other, the person that you call for any and all of these needs, Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Efficient Heating and Cooling is a small company with big service and big results, and I know that Jeff will do right by you, and he will maximize the length of your heater, the length of service for your heater, right? Because these things have a life cycle, and that life cycle, can be anywhere from, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, depending on the unit and depending on how it's been used. Bottom line is this: you want to maximize that to save yourself money, because this is a major expense. Now, when it comes time, Jeff's going to tell you that. He's going to help you find the right one for you and your family. They're an elite pro partner with Rheem. He understands all of the ins and outs, and he can help you select and make the right decision for you. Call him today if you've got an issue, 615-784-4424. You can trust Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Go online at efficienthvac.net, efficienthvac.net.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you on a FriJay. Jay St. Clair is here as well. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, you can see and hear the proceedings, and we appreciate all of you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. But if you're listening on 99.7 FM or any of our variety of audio platforms, we appreciate you as well. Get your questions in on the Super Text line at 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Any and all legal questions, I will ask them of Jay St. Clair, and he will have an answer, I assure you of that. You can also call in if you so desire at 615-737-9986, same number. Jay, I asked a question right before the break, and I don't want to forget about it. So is there any difference between, the union, they have, a level of collective bargaining that individuals don't have, and there are obviously advantages of being a part of a union. And we hear about union contracts amongst unions and businesses, but there are also contracts with unions with the government as well. Are there any differences between those two?
I wouldn't say that there are blanket differences. There is a fundamental difference between private companies agreeing to have unions and the government, and that's a different debate or discussion. I won't get into that now. That never should have happened, is the bottom line. And the original federal law that provided for union rights to organize did not cover any governmental employees. Franklin Delano Roosevelt thought that was a bad idea because the owner of the company is not sitting at the bargaining table, man. It's crazy. But if you look at the enforcement itself of the collective bargaining agreement, now the only difference maybe, and this isn't true for everybody, but a lot of governmental employees do not have a statutory right to strike. That's one of the main weapons. That's the way we talk in this area of the law that unions have to get their way. But by law, I don't think any federal employees have the right to strike. And that's true in a lot of states. Some states do. They'll have the police go on strike, which is crazy. The whole concept of public unions is crazy. And we'll see if Trump takes a swing at that.
How did and not to bog down too much in the intimate details, but curiosity gets the better of me. How then? You're a smart man, Jay, and if you're telling me that this never should have happened to be, and you're right? The owners of the company being the taxpayers, right?
Yeah, right.
In this case,
they're not there.
Right.
You got bureaucrats sitting on the other side of the table. It's not their money, man.
Right.
They're really negotiating with themselves. It's awful.
How did we allow this to happen? Or did we allow it? How is it?
Can you see me? Can you see my video?
Yeah, I'm looking at you right now. You got a nice Tennessee shirt on.
Well, I want to ask you about that.
Okay.
Money, man. It's the unions.
Money.
The unions gave money to the Democrats. The unions gave money to the Democrats. Guess what the Democrats gave them in return?
The right to organize.
Public employee unions.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's exactly how it happened.
All right, so a number of questions on the line. Let's get to them in order that they came in. 8403 writes in, FriJay, with the new Tennessee immigration law passing and also the crackdown on employers hiring illegal aliens, what would be the likelihood that a law could be passed to make it illegal to rent homes or apartments to illegal aliens? I've been wanting to submit this idea to lawmakers. I don't know if you know a lot about this, Jay, but we just passed an immigration law. I don't know that portions of this immigration law are going to pass muster within the court systems in the state of Tennessee because it made it illegal for city councilors in individual cities to vote in favor of sanctuary city status.
Yeah, that's an issue of local governments versus state governments. I haven't looked at what that law is in Tennessee, but that's can a state make it illegal to rent property to illegals? I say yes.
Okay,
they can do that.
Okay.
I think they can do that.
Just like it's illegal to.
What's illegal to hire them?
I was about to say it's illegal for me to knowingly. And the key word is knowingly, right? It's illegal for me to knowingly hire an illegal alien in the state of Tennessee, or really, I think, across the United States of America.
Absolutely. There's no question. It's been illegal since Ronald Reagan was president.
But you know what these businesses do though, and you and I've talked about it for a long, long time. They're like, look, I'm not the law. I don't. They presented paperwork. What am I supposed to do?
Well, and because the law is tricky, man. If somebody presents you a Social Security card that appears to be valid, and you e-verify them, you run it through the database, and it comes back and it says, yeah, this person's here illegally. You can't refuse. It's now illegal for you to refuse to hire them because you think they're illegal. That's how difficult it is to comply with the laws.
And see, that's a tricky wicket. I mean, that's tough on businesses that are trying to do the right thing, but they don't want to get sued if they presume something is fraudulent and it turns out to be real.
Okay, but now here's the tough one. We get this one a lot. You hire a guy, he gives you a Social Security card, and then it comes back and it's not a match. That name does not match that number.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to him and say, hey, what's going on here? He says, oh, okay, well, I'll fix that. But you have to give him a right to, figure it out. The next day he comes in, gives you another Social Security card, different name, different number. Now what do you do?
Wow.
Because now, and we advise clients about this all the time. I think the advice we give now is, well, you now are on notice that this person is probably committing fraud. If they come to you on Monday and say, my name's Matt Murphy and here's my Social Security card, and it doesn't match, and then they come back Wednesday and say, no, it's actually Jay St. Clair, something's up. But even then, it's not perfectly clear that you can refuse to hire that person because of those sequence of events. Hey, Chris, is Chris listening?
Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Do you know what my favorite color is?
Green.
Gray. You know why I like gray?
Why is that?
I turn it into green.
Yeah.
Gray areas of the law make me a lot of money.
You know what Jay and I do? We've been doing this for 20 years. You know what we do? I carefully and methodically separate white and black. And so you got black and you got white. You got black and you got white. And Jay comes along and mooshes it all together and makes gray.
Yeah. Well, the only black and white really in the world that exists are the Tennessee Vols, the Florida Gators.
What is that shirt you're wearing, Jay? Look.
I want to get. Let me see if I can show this here. Can you see this here?
I'm on a little bit of a delay, so you got to show it off, and then I see the T up there.
Do you see it now?
No, hold on. Let's let the delay catch up. I'm on a little. They don't let me get the live. Oh, there. Here you come. It says College Scholars.
Yes, that is the program that I went through at Tennessee. If I could show it down a little bit further, it was established in 1973. I went there in 1976. Great program, Matt. Love College Scholars. It was a program that allowed me to design my own major.
Oh, wow.
And oh yeah, it was just great. I had my advisor was a full professor, and we called them tutors.
Mm-hmm.
And it was incredible. It was like being in a small liberal arts college in the middle of a 30,000 student university. I absolutely loved my time at UT. Absolutely loved it.
Well, it's a nice shirt. That's a fine looking shirt.
Yeah.
All right, Jay, real quick. If any of the Biden family, and I'm going to create an assumption here on a side, I'm assuming that the question is about the Biden family members that have been pardoned. Right. But if any of those Biden family members breaks a federal law in the future, does it breach their pardon?
Absolutely not. No, the pardon only looks backwards. It does not go into the future. It only goes into the past. So no, they have no protection going forward.
Just what has been, what not necessarily what will be.
Well, they've been unburdened by what has been. Did you see where somebody in the Trump White House, there was a Kamala Harris website page or what? Have you seen this? This is hilarious.
I don't think I have.
Well, you got to find this. I mean, this is brilliant. And I don't know how they did this. And maybe it was a official government website or something. Anyway, if you go there now, it flashes up 404, right? Which is the error message. And it says underneath it, this website has been unburdened by what has been. I'm not making this up, man. It is hilarious.
But it's a Kamala Harris website.
Yeah, I think it
Government
was
website.
like their campagn website or
Oh,
something.
okay.
And maybe once they lost, they just abandoned it.
Maybe it's Kamala. I'm going to look it up. KamalaHarris.com. See if we can find that. Yeah, they probably did. I mean, what do they need it for? So,
And so
that's it.
they just put up, the error message. And this webpage has been unburdened by what has been.
KamalaHarris.com still works. Ugh. There's a big old picture of her right there.
Well,
Ugh.
you'll find it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Jay, real quick. So Donald Trump initiated a hiring freeze in government. Is that under his authority?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, he's the CEO. They don't have to hire anybody. There's no law that says you have to hire X number of people a day, a week, a month, or whatever.
Did you see this? My favorite employment-based story, and have saved it for last, was I guess Donald Trump has been somewhat inspired by maybe his friendship with Elon Musk. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to read too much.
I guarantee you they talked a lot about how he downsized Twitter.
But
I guarantee you they have.
There are 2.3 roughly million employees in the federal government.
Right.
And the Trump administration wanted a way for the head honcho to communicate with everybody.
An all-employee email. I mean, everybody sees that.
I bet you guys at Littler have an ability for everybody at Littler to get an email, right?
I get one every day, and it's to all employees.
Right, and we
almost every company has that. I'm sure y'all have that.
We do. I mean, and so Mary Berner, our CEO, can send us an email from her desk, go to every employee, or locally we have a Nashville-based all-staff email, right? So only Nashville people will get it. Well,
yeah, it just makes sense.
So I bet you've seen the story where Donald Trump.
Absolutely. No, I looked at it. I can tell you all about it.
All right, tell me about this. What's going on? They just wanted to send emails to everybody, and people are mad about it.
This shows you how bad it has gotten. Mad. This shows you how bad it is. Yeah. So somebody, I don't know if it's Elon or somebody, but they say, well, where's your all-employee email? Well, we don't have one. What do you mean you don't have an all-employee email? Put one together.
Right.
And so they did. And then they sent it out and said, hey, if you get this, let us know. Make sure we got everybody. Well, somebody went ballistic over that. Why? Well, I don't know. I have some ideas. But this is how bad it is, man. Apparently, here's what their argument is. Well, there was a law passed back in 2002 that before anybody in the government creates a new database, they have to do a study, like an environmental impact statement. They have to do a digital security analysis to make sure that this new database can't be, what's the word when you break into something?
Like breached, or hacked.
Yeah, hacked. Yeah, you got to do some kind of saying you didn't do that. And so you violated the law. Just putting together an email distribution list for all employees. It's crazy, man. It just, and the fact that they would have this law on the books to try to stop this. I mean, did you ever look at the thing when Elon was talking about when he was going to shoot his rockets up?
Mm-hmm.
The government came to him and said, well, you got to prove to us you're not going to kill any sharks.
Was it sharks or I think it was whales.
No, it
first.
started with sharks.
Oh, did it start with sharks?
And so then he says, okay, well, give me the data on sharks. And we said, well, we can't do that. It's another department over in the West Coast that has that. We don't trust them. So, no, we can't give it to you. So he took months to do a study on whether a rocket landing in the Pacific Ocean is going to hit a shark. And they got through that and everything was fine. And they said, okay, now let's talk about whales. And they says, well, and they said, well, can your rocket hit a whale? And Elon, I'm growing to like him more and more, man.
Yes.
And you got to hear him tell the story. It's so funny. He says, well, and so I told him, I said, well, it's a big ocean. You just, you don't know. And they said, well, how many whales are there? And they said, we don't really know. And he says, well, I'm going to be honest with y'all. If one of my rockets hits a whale out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it was probably his day.
It was probably meant to be.
It was just meant to be. That's what that crazy lawsuit.
That's awesome. Well, but
hey, Chris, you know what the two things they had to file that lawsuit?
What's that?
Oh, Chris, don't let me down like that.
Something about a ham sandwich?
$400 and a crayon.
Oh, a crayon. Yeah, there you go.
Come on, Chris, get with the program.
By the way, that is the official White House website. I don't know that it's still up, but the White House digital team in the transitionary period for the office of Kamala Harris, and one of our listeners sent it to me. It's the 404 message, and it says, "This page is unburdened by what has been." Thank you for giving me that laugh, Jay.
Oh, it's just brilliant.
Great FriJay edition. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk to you next week. Appreciate you.
See you, buddy.
All right, 54 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, you know, we're reaching the month of romance, right? I've been telling you about Valentine's Day when it comes to Genesis Diamonds for the last several days. It's almost here. If you're looking for the most thoughtful, romantic gift for the loved one in your life, Genesis Diamonds has it. They're celebrating love. It's their specialty after all. Maybe it's a simple pendant. Maybe it's an exquisite, one-of-a-kind designer ring. Genesis can help you pick out the most memorable and special piece of jewelry for any and all occasions. To make it even sweeter, now until Valentine's Day, whether you spend $399 or $399,000, it does not matter. Genesis will give you some chocolates, fresh flowers, and a dinner out at no charge to you. That's pretty cool, right? It's one-stop Valentine's shopping. When you buy any piece of beautiful jewelry, $399 and up, Genesis will give you a bouquet of flowers from Jenny's Florist, a gift card for dinner at Fancy Pants Restaurant, and they don't mess around. Get to Genesis Diamonds, guys. Get their spectacular collection. You can see the collection of rings and earrings and pendants and bands and bracelets and more. Their non-commissioned sales experts will guide you. They'll feed you baby birds, and they'll help you celebrate Valentine's Day the right way. Once again, $399 and up, and you'll get a beautiful bouquet of flowers and a gift card for dinner from Genesis Diamonds. Happy Valentine's Day from Genesis.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
5 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now, got an update on the investigation into 5th District Congressman Andy Ogles. The Tennessean today says the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Tennessee is withdrawn from a criminal investigation without explanation. It comes months after the office obtained warrants that were then executed by the FBI, which took Ogles' cell phone and email account. Ogles has stated he believes the investigation centered around his federal campaign finance filings, and he's never been charged with a crime in relation to the investigation. No word on whether this means the investigation is actually closed now. President Trump says he will impose tariffs on America's three biggest trading partners, including Canada and Mexico, tomorrow.
We have about a $200 billion deficit with Canada, getting close to $200 billion. They've treated us very unfairly. And I say, why should we be subsidizing Canada?
Mexico?
We have a $250 billion deficit, and we have a lot of people coming into the border, and now we've largely stopped that, but we've stopped that ourselves.
China, too, for the fentanyl. As for what it means for us...
President Trump's promised 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada could drive up prices on everything from gasoline to guacamole. Canada supplies most of the crude oil used in U.S. refineries, and experts say gas prices could jump by 50 cents or more per gallon. Meanwhile, Mexico is the top supplier of fresh produce like avocados and tomatoes and limes, so expect grocery bills to climb. And if you're shopping for a car, prices may rise too, since nearly half of all imports come from those two countries.
That's Dave Packer reporting. Here in Tennessee, the next education issue the General Assembly will tackle is cell phones in classrooms, a ban on it. House Education Subcommittee Chair Scott Sapicki telling WTN's Chad Benson Show today what his bill will do.
What we're going to say at the state level is the bare minimum is during instructional time, they have to be prohibited from being in the students' hands, but also we're going to make them put into the student code of conduct that if there's a violation of that, there's a penalty for it.
Sapicki says the goal is to increase students' focus on instruction and social interaction. An update today from local officials on operations following that midair collision in Washington, D.C. John Donnelly, chief of the D.C. Fire and EMS Department, saying hundreds of personnel working on the site.
Our team's continued search operations and surface work, including side sonar scanning, shoreline searches, and aerial searches. Also, 2 Coast Guard cutters have arrived on station.
41 sets of remains have been recovered, with 28 of those victims now positively identified. Next of kin notifications made to 18 families. And late word is they have recovered another black box recorder. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Got a crash in Clarksville reported by police 24 eastbound at Rossview Road. In Laverne, 24 westbound at Old Hickory Boulevard. Police reporting a crash. Also in Antioch, 24 westbound at Haywood Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A lot of conversation about tariffs today. It is 5:07. A good afternoon. Welcome into the Matt Murphy Show. If you're just joining us for one reason or another, perhaps just off work in your automobile, perhaps you've been here in and out. Maybe you're in your home, your car, your place of business. We thank you, whatever time you're able to give us, whether it's the full 4 hours or just a couple of minutes on your way home. We appreciate you. It is officially Friday. We just passed FriJay. And it is the weekend. I think that's official, right? After 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, it's officially the weekend. Yep. That means we work weekends. How about that?
Well, I should be getting paid overtime.
Me too.
I think we just need to go home.
Well, according to reports that I'm getting from the Super Text line, if you're going home on 24 today, Ken, you can expect to get there Saturday morning sometime.
Not for me.
No?
This is westbound 24.
Oh, okay.
So
all right.
if you've got some dining and some dancing to do up here in the big city, it's going to take you a little bit longer, Rutherford County.
See, I don't think the traffic gods like that tone of voice that you're using right now.
Better watch out.
You better watch out. You got a couple of hours before you have to.
No doubt. They're just waiting.
Oh, wait. Here comes Weaver.
Push the refrigerator over. Go.
Look at that little Honda Elantra. Get it.
Get on it.
Put a pothole there.
May all of your traffic problems vanish away as you approach them if you're on the roadways right now. From all of us at Super Talk 99.7 WTN and the Matt Murphy Show to you. Well, look, we appreciate you, several of you holding on to discuss the issue of this helicopter airplane crash, and I appreciate you indulging us with FriJay for the last hour. We had an incredible pilot on the show. Well, I guess he wasn't a pilot. He was a crew chief of a Black Hawk helicopter team. He was in support of the pilot and the co-pilot. There's been a lot of question as to whether or not we know the identities of all of the individuals in the helicopter. And I don't believe that we have the identity of the pilot, although I'm being told through my own sources and based on the conversation that we had in the 3 o'clock hour, you can figure out for yourself who one of those sources is, considering that he ran from the same base, ran the same Blackhawks, ran in the same company, and ran with the same people for over 10 years, that apparently this was a captain and that she had like multiple thousands of hours as a captain of a Black Hawk helicopter and multiple thousands of hours, if not most of which, if not all of which, was engaged right there in that. I take that back. Obviously, all of it would not have been right there at the Potomac, but a lot of it was right there during training exercises and flying VIPs back and forth and whatnot. I often say that an absence of information leads to speculation. That rarely knows any exception in the modern era. And so with that absence of information, people are going to speculate as to why that has been withheld from us thus far. I can't answer that question. I can tell you that as soon as we know the information, we'll get it back to you. We also know this, according to the New York Times, the air control tower at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, commonly referred to as DCA, has been understaffed for years. And it came amid a lawsuit claiming the Federal Aviation Administration discriminated against air traffic controllers based on their race. In other words, they did not want white applicants. And the white applicants were set aside. According to the lawsuit, in which 900-plus individuals have joined in, the Times said that the tower at the airport was nearly a third below the targeted staff levels, with 19 fully certified controllers as of September 2023. Citing the most recent air traffic controller workforce plan and annual report to Congress that contains targeted and actual staffing levels, the targets set by the FAA and the Controllers Union called for 30, and there were 19. The lawsuit represents nearly 1,000 individuals who went to the school to become air traffic controllers. They passed the normal testing to obtain the position right before the Obama administration said that the class was, quote, too white, and threw out the tests with the applicants. That, according to the lawsuit. Former Nevada Attorney General Adam Laxalt, who serves as co-counsel for the Mountain States Legal Foundation based in Colorado, is leading the effort for the lawsuit, saying, when you travel and have a delay, it's because there aren't enough of these people. When you see the incidents in air traffic control, it's because there are not enough of these people. There are only 14,000 air traffic controllers. 1,000 were scrapped a decade ago, and the bottom line is they've never made up for losing all of these people in the pipeline. More and more as we try to put information together, oftentimes it's like a grand jigsaw puzzle, and you cannot get the full mosaic. You cannot understand the full picture until we get at least most of the puzzle pieces in place. But two things that we continue to come back to with regard to this helicopter crash into this aircraft, killing 67 people. Number one, why was the helicopter, this is in the form of questions. Number one, why was the helicopter above its elevation ceiling of 200 feet? And why did the crew not notice? Number two, was it the case, and it seems that it was, that the air traffic controllers were so short-staffed that you had one individual that was doing the job that was normally the job of two? We heard from our crew chief, D, earlier today, who said that it was always his experience in the thousands of hours that he has flown over this same airspace. It was always his experience that you had a dedicated air traffic controller for helicopter traffic and another dedicated to commercial traffic. In this case, it seemed that there was one individual controlling the both. I'm not going to point blame at the air traffic controller themselves or himself or herself, in as much as it seems that this person was overworked. And I can imagine that no one on planet Earth feels worse than the air traffic controller that did not catch the elevation change in the helicopter and did not alert the helicopter that it was about to hit an aircraft. Now, as far as the video goes, and I know that there's a new video out, the plane is descending as the helicopter is going parallel to the water. From our vantage point in this video that came out earlier today, I think it was originally obtained by #NeverCNN. Don't watch CNN, garbage network full of garbage people spewing garbage. I'll watch so you don't have to. In that video, it looks as if these two objects, the airplane and the helicopter, are always on the same plane. And I would argue they're not. That the plane is coming toward us and it is descending. And I think because it is coming toward us as it descends from the vantage point of the video, that we're seeing less of a rate of descent than is reality because of our perspective. And the helicopter looks to be maintaining its level flight at around 350 feet above the Potomac River. It was indicated earlier today, and Dee confirmed it in our conversation in the 3 o'clock hour, that there does not appear to be any voice recording system inside the helicopter. So it will be left up to investigators to determine what the people in the helicopter knew, how they knew it, what they did, and what mistakes were made. And clearly mistakes were made. John has been holding for an undue amount of time. And, John, I appreciate your patience. Thank you. I will reward it with an open floor for you, sir. Thanks for calling the Matt Murphy Show.
All right. Hey, thanks, Matt. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
I did 20 years in the military, and part of my certifications, I was a helo control officer on a warship. And what really struck me, two things that Trump said. One is about the DEI. I don't know about that. I'm sure they'll go through the records and find out what happened there. But the other thing he said was common sense. And I can tell you from being in the tower and being responsible for the souls in the air that you're watching everything. You're watching the radar, you're watching the altitude. And to me, what I had to do was I had to watch the wind envelope to where if the winds got out of the envelope, I had to call the helicopter off. He couldn't land on a flight deck in the middle of the ocean if the winds were out of range. And then I would say do a 90-degree left turn and circle back. I got to get a course change from the bridge. So then we would change the course of the ship to get the winds in the envelope. So that's my responsibility as a helo control officer. And then once the helicopter's on final and he can see the glide slope indicator, then I say call the ball. And so as soon as he sees it and he knows if he's too high or too low, he says, I have the ball. Well, now it's out of my hands. So to me, why that air traffic controller up there in Washington didn't say to that helicopter, do a 90-degree left turn and pull out of there. Because he's seen it on his radar. He knew the helicopter was too high. He knew the helicopter was headed toward the flight path. So
wait a minute.
I don't understand.
John, I'm trying to interrupt you here, but you just said something, and I just feel compelled to jump in here and have a little conversation with you.
Yes, sir.
You're saying the Black Hawk helicopter pilot that is now dead knew. I don't know how we can say that. I mean,
no, not the pilot. The control, the guy in the tower. See, if he gives a helicopter a command or an airplane a command, they have to do it.
Yeah, I understand.
They can argue with it.
But there
later,
was no. I've heard no indication that the air traffic controller was aware that he was above his ceiling.
Well, he should have him on radar. He should know just by looking at what he's got in front of him.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but and look, we're on the outside looking in, but
right,
John, it's possible that this air traffic controller was completely overwhelmed with the amount of commercial traffic versus the amount of helicopter traffic, and he just didn't. Is it possible that he just didn't see it?
Well, absolutely, and I'm not trying to blame anybody or point any fingers. I'm just saying what popped in my head when I saw that whole thing go down. It's like, why didn't he just call him out? Just left turn, get out of there.
No, I mean, I get it. I mean, right? I mean, obviously, if an air traffic controller had seen that he was about to crash into an aircraft, he would have done everything in his power, one would presume, to stop him from crashing into the aircraft.
Right, absolutely.
So,
but anyway, it popped in my head. I wanted to share it.
No, well, I'm glad you did, and I'm glad you held on to share it. I'm not disagreeing with you, and I understand your thought process, but unless we theorize that the air traffic controller was somehow desirous of this result, then I think we can safely assume that the air traffic controller simply did not see it, did not know. Right? I mean, we can start there. The air traffic controller either knew that these two things were about to collide or they were not aware that these two things were about to collide. We all agree on that? And I think it is a fairly safe assumption. And I understand the theories that are out there. And I would, I promised myself some years ago during COVID that I would never call anything a conspiracy theory again but it seems to me a bit conspiratorial to suggest that we, quote, know that this was intentional. I see no evidence that this was intentional. Outside of the fact that the collision happened. And outside of the natural response. And I said yesterday, my natural response when I first found out about this earlier in the week was to say, how does this happen? How in the hell can a helicopter hit a commercial air flight? How? It boggles the mind. It is insane. It is also unfortunate that my first inclination is to say that there are no accidents anymore. But everything that I've seen in the aftermath and everything that we do get in the form of information indicates to me that there was a coming together of events to include an overworked air traffic control tower and individuals that were doing two jobs when they should have only been doing one, and then the helicopter. And I don't know. I've heard the wildest of speculations as to what was going on inside of the helicopter. But I lean on something that Dee told us earlier. Dee, who has been a crew chief in these Black Hawk helicopters, who flew over the Potomac River for 10 years. I'm going to lean on his expertise. And as a guest of this show, he told us you couldn't fly a Black Hawk helicopter with certainty into a commercial airliner that is landing if you wanted to. Now, that's what a crew chief of a Black Hawk said. That if you were piloting a Black Hawk at night and you got up in the air with the determination that you were going to go find a commercial airline and hit it, that you could not do that with any level of certainty because of the dynamics involved in doing so. So it is almost a more logical conclusion to then determine that this was a horrific accident. Now, other information that's being circulated online, and I just want to get to this real quick because we can put it to bed real quick. Several of you have said, Murphy, we're hearing that the reason they're not divulging the third individual on the helicopter is because that individual was a transgender, male into female. It is not true. It was a rumor that was running around over the last 24 hours, and it has been debunked. The rumor was running around. Now, it is true that there's a person by the name of Joe Ellis, and that person has transitioned and is in the military and is a pilot of the Black Hawk, and I think all of those things coming together led to this rumor. I'll tell you about the rumor, and I'll tell you how we know that it's not true because, well, Joe Ellis is on video today saying, I'm not dead. 23 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, not only when you give or donate your time to Men of Valor are you doing good for society, doing good for this life and, frankly, for the next, I would suggest that you're also doing good for your own wallet. How your own wallet, you might ask? Because, prisons cost money. Jails cost money. And the more people that go into our prison system and our jail system, the more money it costs we, the tax-paying citizens. What if I told you that there's a wonderful organization that maximizes the value of your dollar or maximizes the volunteer time that you give into it, and they create, Men of Valor? What a wonderful organization. They take individuals within the prison systems and they bring them to the power of God. And with that discipleship, they bring them to a life of productivity as opposed to a life of crime. And with that comes tax-paying citizens, good citizens who want to raise families and hold down a good-paying job as opposed to individuals that commit crime time and time and time again and suck from the system and out of our wallets. They suck money that go into the criminal justice system. Bottom line is this. It is well worth your time and energy to go over to movministry.com. That's movministry.com and see the power of God and his people. They need job partners and Bible study teachers and mentors. Join them at movministry.com. Again, that's movministry.com.
New developments in the Congressman Andy Ogles investigation. Nashville is preparing to sue to try to block the new illegal immigration legislation, and top brass at the FBI being sent packing. These stories and more at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dang it, I've been caught. What? Don't you started this.
At least X out the menu.
You started this. We are
What you looking up there?
Currently exposing ourselves, guys. Weber and I were working on something, Ken.
What are y'all looking at?
We were trying to figure out some things about our new studio. Just, just working out a few kinks, bugs.
Since we weren't told anything, we just got to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah, we're just working on it ourselves.
I didn't know they had instructions for that on OnlyFans.
I changed it to dynamic mode. Is it brighter? Is it nicer looking? What do you think?
I think it looks good.
Looks about the same to me.
Does it? Okay. Well, we're trying to figure out how to fit to screen. So
I'll work on that during the news break.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you do it because obviously I can't because I'm screwing it up. All right, real quick. Let's dispel this rumor, maybe get to a telephone call. So there was a rumor running around the internet that one of the reasons that the military was slow to release the names of the individuals is because one of the individuals in the helicopter was a quote-unquote DEI hire. And that internet rumor went further to suggest that DEI hire was someone who had transitioned while in the military. Now, this is true. Joe Ellis is this person's name. Joe Ellis is a man, and now Joe identifies as a female. And the rumor existed because Joe had recently been on Michael Schmerkanish is a talk show host, and I think he hosts a show on CNN, and he also has a podcast. And he had Joe on his show to talk about, the difficulty of being in the military and, being born a man and wanting to be a girl and all that, and transitioning, transgender, and what's going to happen next. And because of the proximity of that podcast, I would suggest to this incident, there were some that put two and two together and went, oh, no, Joe Ellis was the flight, because Joe Ellis is a Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Joe Ellis is also very much alive. Writing, some craziness has happened on the internet, and I'm being named as one of the pilots of the D.C. crash. Please report any accounts or posts that you see. It's insulting to the victims and families of those that are lost, et cetera, et cetera. Joe posted that. Nobody believed it. They said, oh, well, anybody could post that. So Joe then went online and posted a video of himself, to which the conspiracy theorist immediately said that was a body double. Okay. It's not Joe Ellis. Joe Ellis is still alive. It's someone else. Everything's not a rabbit hole that we have to dive into. It's 31 after the hour on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, new developments in the investigation of 5th District Congressman Andy Ogles. The Tennessean says the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Tennessee has withdrawn from it. No explanation, just filed some motions yesterday and a judge approved. It comes months after the office obtained warrants and then the FBI took Ogles' cell phone and email account. Ogles has said he thinks it's over federal campaign finance filings. He's never been charged with a crime. No word on whether this development closes the investigation. Nashville is considering a lawsuit to block the illegal immigration bill just passed in the special session of the General Assembly that includes making it a felony for any elected official to vote to create sanctuary cities or policies. This is Metro Legal Director Wally Dietz.
It is unprecedented, and it's a totally different situation, and also the threat of removing from office for a legislative vote.
The ACLU lining up against the bill, too. Governor Lee has yet decided. He's been in D.C. today meeting with President Trump and some other governors from states that have school choice. We're seeing reports that the top 6 officials in the FBI are being forced out by the Trump administration. Here's Karen Travers.
President Trump was asked in the Oval Office Friday if he requested anyone be fired or forced to resign at the Justice Department. He said no, but added that there are some, quote, bad people over there.
But if they fired some people over there, that's a good thing because they were very bad.
The president accused the Justice Department of going after people, including him.
Citing hundreds of billions of dollars in trade deficits with Canada and Mexico and the flow of illegal immigrants and fentanyl into the U.S., President Trump says he's imposing 25% tariffs tomorrow.
Supply chain experts say that could raise gas prices by up to 70 cents per gallon in parts of the U.S. and send grocery bills soaring, especially for produce like avocados and tomatoes. Car prices could also climb since nearly half of all U.S. auto imports come from those two countries.
China's getting slapped with 10% tariff. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, looks like we got an injury crash, Gallatin Pike South, and this is just south of Due West Avenue in Madison. In Hermitage, got one, Old Hickory Boulevard at Juarez Drive. On the interstates, 24 westbound at Old Hickory Boulevard in Laverne. And then over here on the East Loop downtown, well, just off of it, got a crash, James Robertson Parkway, just west of I-24. That could impede your efforts to get to the interstate. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Not only is Grace Point Healthcare an incredible direct pay primary care provider in Franklin, Tennessee, they're also a military veteran-owned practice. I absolutely love that. I love the fact that they're going to try to treat you naturally whenever possible. At Grace Point, they believe vaccinations are also a personal choice between you and your provider, and all vaccinations are administered with preservative-free ingredients. All of this goes back to customer satisfaction at Grace Point Healthcare. At Grace Point, they take time with every patient. As a matter of fact, when you call Grace Point, whether or not you've ever been before or not, whether or not you are a member of the Smart Care Plan, and I'll talk to you more about that in just a moment, there are no long wait times. There are no crowded waiting rooms. They can often get you same day or next day appointments available to you at Grace Point Healthcare. This is why they've been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City for 3 years running. It's why I believe in them. It's why I say that they're modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way, because they are certainly just that. Ask about their Smart Care Plan. It's incredible. For $69 a month, you can have unlimited office visits throughout the course of the year, and they'll do basic labs and diagnostics for you as well. Give them a call at 599-6868 and tell them that I sent you to the one and only Grace Point Healthcare. Some additional information coming in on the helicopter plane crash. We'll get to that coming up in just a few moments. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to be a part of the show. 615-737-9986. So I'm getting a lot of this, and I'll just use this as an example. 1998 writes in, D is full of bleep. I was a crew chief. Any pilot can fly any copter into anything they want. This is intentional. Okay, so I can understand why there might be a difference of opinion or a difference of perspective on this, but how do you know that this was intentional? I think it's a dangerous thing for people to run around saying that they know. I know. You don't know. You don't know. How do you know? I don't know. I'm just trying to work it out. We're all trying to work it out, man. I'm just fascinated with the number of people that sit behind their key. And I'm not faulting you, 1998. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just, in general, I'm fascinated with the number of people that as soon as something happens, they say they know what happened. When that cargo ship, remember that big cargo ship that hit the bridge in Baltimore and knocked the bridge over? Within like 2 hours, everybody, it's intentional. I know. No, you don't. I mean, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just fascinated with the number of people that are sitting behind their computer monitors or sitting behind their keyboards and telling you that they know exactly what happened when you could not possibly know exactly what happened with the information that we've been provided. Now, I'm also getting into, hey, Ken, do you have anything on a plane crash out of Philadelphia?
I do not.
Okay. I've gotten 2 alerts, but these are listener-based alerts. So just look around. Plane crash, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Plane crash.
I don't know. I don't know what that might be all about, but we're looking into that. Once again, I'm not fussing at anybody that I mean, if your gut is telling you that you think that this might be an intentional act, I just told you what the crew chief of one of these Black Hawk helicopters said, that he didn't believe that with a degree of certainty. He didn't say that you couldn't fly it into an aircraft. He said that if it was your intention, that the possibility of you doing that like that, I mean, it's not just that easy. You got an aircraft coming in at hundreds of miles an hour. You got to time that thing just right. You got to get in the flight path just right. Just so, I mean, it's not just as easy as going, it's not like, I decide tonight that I want to take my big old GMC pickup truck and just smash right into Chris Webber's vehicle. I'm not saying that I would do it.
You better not.
But if I wanted to do it, it would probably be a hell of a lot easier than anything else. You see anything, Ken?
I do indeed.
Okay.
This is from Action 6 News. An investigation underway after a small plane crashed in the area of Northeast Philadelphia. Happened near Cotman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard just after 6 o'clock local time tonight. Action News has learned that a plane possibly hit several buildings and cars in the area. Multiple casualties have been reported.
Yikes. Well, I mean, obviously on the heels, a lot of small plane crashes around the United States of America just about every week. I wouldn't say every day, but just about every there are.
Whoa. Multiple homes are on fire.
Oh, no. Well, that's bad. And on the heels of what happened earlier in the week in Washington, D.C., there's going to be a lot of speculation. Is it bad, Ken?
Yes, it is. It looks like a row of townhomes is on fire. After this crash, 2 people were on the plane, and several injuries are reported on the ground.
And that was just after 6 Eastern time?
Yeah, well, this is about 45 minutes ago.
Wow. Several buildings on fire, cars in the area, multiple casualties reported according to some of the sources I'm looking at. That's not good.
Yeah, it looks like to me that this is like a condominium complex, just a row of condos, 2-story condos.
All right. On the heels of that, I'm going to make an executive call. We're going to suspend nincompoops for the day because I want to get to callers who have been holding for a long time. And plus, there's some additional information that's coming out on these flights that are on this crash that happened in D.C. that I want to get to include some information involving the pilots. Once again, I just want to reiterate, in the absence of information, there is speculation. I don't begrudge people's speculation, but that we keep it in that arena. What I get frustrated about is when people say that they know what happened and they're absolutely certain. Well, if you dig your heels in from a psychological standpoint and you decide that something is so, then your brain automatically attempts to exclude information that might go against your theory that you consider to be a foregone conclusion. And I would suggest that while we ought to keep our minds open to the concept that this could be intentional, we all also similarly ought to keep our minds open to the very real possibility that this was a horrific coming together of events that led to a horrific accident that killed 67 people. So, with that in mind, and this, I'm getting, and thank you, alert listeners of the show, for getting us alerted to this situation. I don't know that I've got Fox News on. I don't think Fox News is on this story yet.
Nobody's got it.
I don't think anybody's got this story yet.
The only people reporting it right now is locals in Philadelphia.
And I would be a little surprised that they wouldn't want to. I would imagine that the national networks would want to pick up on this when they discover it, considering what happened just a couple of days ago. And this is more than just a small aircraft crashing in a field. This is something far more deadly, it seems.
Yeah, this is right into people's homes, and the fire is no joke.
Man, oh, man.
Of course, you're going to have, fuel from the plane that is going to be burning along with, these cars and these buildings.
Yeah, so I'm getting some audio or some video rather of it, and yeah, that looks awful. That looks bad. Let's get to a few calls on your thoughts on these crashes, private planes, and whatnot. Josh is next out of Robertson County. Josh, good afternoon.
Hi, Matt. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing well, Josh. I hope you are.
I'm doing well. Just thought I would call in and try to give a pilot's perspective.
All right.
Or a pilot's take on this. I don't know if you've had a pilot speak to you about it yet or not. So what I am aware of, well, first off, I would start by saying that D is more accurate than someone who's saying that this is deliberate. As a pilot, I would say, now I'm not a rotorcraft pilot, not a helicopter pilot, I'm a fixed-wing pilot. To be able to do that, especially at night, to deliberately fly an aircraft into another, given that it's a passenger jet that travels at very high rates of speeds versus a helicopter that's relatively slow, it would be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to collide those aircraft in that way. I don't know if you've heard this. So I've listened to the air traffic control audio. And there's been a lot of talk about the tower control and the helicopter pilots. And it's been said several times that in the news that the airliner collided with the helicopter. I would say they're saying that inappropriately. The helicopter collided with the airliner. It's right the opposite. And I can try to explain some of this. So the helicopter was operating underneath VFR flight rules.
Mm-hmm.
The air traffic controller, long before he ever got anywhere near the CRJ that was on final, the American Airlines, asked the helicopter pilots. His call sign was Pat 225 or Pat 25, I think. Asked him if he had a visual on the CRJ. Now, at night, when the air traffic controller says CRJ, he's talking about a specific aircraft. Well, at night, all you see is lights. So what he was actually referring to was, he asked him specifically, do you see the CRJ that's on final for runway 33? And the helicopter pilot responded with affirmative, requesting visual separation. At that point, the air traffic controller initiated and confirmed that pilot saw the CRJ on final. and granted his request, meaning that the responsibility of separation at that point actually fell on the helicopter pilot. So my take is, now he was asked a second time, when the helicopter got close to the final approach of this aircraft, the CRJ, he was asked a second time by the air traffic controller, do you have visual? And he confirmed that he had visual, requesting visual separation. And that he confirmed with the air traffic controller a second time. Now, this was within minutes of the collision by the time he asked twice. Given that that's the situation, it was still the pilot of the helicopter's responsibility to maintain visual separation from that aircraft, not air traffic control. Besides, at 200-300 feet AGL above ground level, radar typically will not pick up a helicopter or any aircraft. They don't have them on radar. That's why they're using the visual corridor through the Class Bravo airspace, and they're using what they call VFR landmarks, and they're calling ATC. You're required to let ATC know where your location is. Now, I don't know the military operations up there. I've never been in the military. I'm on the civil side of things. I know a lot more about the civil aviation. I'm not an airline transport pilot. I'm just a private pilot. But I do know quite a bit of the civil side of things, including the airlines. Now, these airline pilots, you have a pilot in command, and you have what's called people used to call second in command, but they now call them PM. So you have a pilot flying, or PF, and you have a PM, a pilot monitoring.
You talking about in the Black Hawk?
No. So this would be for the airline.
All right. So
these guys most likely had their heads down in the cockpit the entire time on the final approach. So they're IFR. That's instrument flight rules, which in a nutshell, if you're flying instrument flight rules, what that means is from the moment the aircraft leaves the ground, the pilots are navigating and flying the aircraft off of the avionics.
I think everything that I don't mean to rush you, Josh. You obviously have intensive knowledge of flight and how all of this works. But, I mean, I think we've pretty well established that the American Airlines flight, the CRJ, was almost just an innocent bystander in this. I mean, in as much as
totally agree.
Yeah, so and there was virtually. I would almost, just with my knowledge of how these things go, I don't know, but I'll ask it in the form of a question. I mean, I think when the cockpit voice recorder comes out, I don't think you'll see or you'll hear any foreknowledge of anything wrong until such time as they were hit by this helicopter.
Right.
I just don't.
A couple more things I would like to point out.
You got to go quick. I've got a break to take in about 30 seconds.
Okay, sure. So these pilots, I think it's a mistaken identity. So when the helicopter pilots were asked if they saw the CRJ at night, there's lights everywhere. And these aircraft are at relatively low altitudes. And at night, there's city lights everywhere. It's easy to mistake ground lights for an aircraft or an aircraft for ground lights.
Mm-hmm.
There was multiple aircraft on final. They may have saw an aircraft, but they spotted the wrong aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing, real quick, is when you're in training, you're taught, at night especially, how to identify an aircraft that's out in front of you and whether or not its relative movement would indicate that you're on a collision course. Now, at night, that's more difficult, way more difficult. And I had a story I wanted to share with you about that, but you don't have time. But it's very difficult to tell just how far away an aircraft is at night when all you can see is lights. You don't know if it's a Cessna 172 or if it's a Boeing 747 sometimes. If a Boeing 747 is 10 miles away, it can look like a Cessna 172 that's a mile away, or vice versa. It's very difficult. And if there's no relative movement of that aircraft light up on your windshield,
got to move, got to go. I'm sorry, Josh, that I do. But yeah, hey, listen, the point is well taken, and we've heard the suggestion made that there was maybe a case of mistaken identity with regard to the plane that was being discussed by the air traffic controller. So I don't mean to rush you there, Josh, but I got to go. It's 52 after the hour on Super Talk. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. Right now, if you switch from another pest control company to U.S. Pest, let me tell you something. You're just doing the right thing, right? You are switching in a way that's going to be superior service, superior value, and superior coverage than anybody else in the business. They have full service pest control at a 100% money back guarantee, full service termite protection, 100% money back guarantee, and a crawl space service, 100% money back guarantee. So it's a $200 value if you go ahead and make the switch right now to U.S. Pest, and you'll get a better quality throughout the life of your pest control service. Guaranteed. U.S. Pest just provides it. 590-1260 is the number. 590-1260 for our friends at U.S. Pest. Give them a call today or go online to uspest.com and see some of the incredible services that they provide. Believe it or not, it'll be spring before you know it, and it is bug season in the spring. Well, it's bug season in your home any time of year because they want to get into what's yours and take advantage of it. Don't allow that to happen. Stop it with U.S. Pest.
We'll get you a report from one of the local television reporters on the scene of this plane crash in Philadelphia that seems to have caused an explosion and now large fire involving homes and cars and multiple injuries. We'll tell you about it coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, anxiously awaiting that report from Ken Weaver. I'm also seeing from my vantage point in the studio that several outlets are saying that the small plane struck a mall. I don't know if that means a strip mall or a mall with indoor corridors or not, but we'll try to get some further eyeballs on that and explain to you what's going on in that regard. This is breaking news, and we're trying to kind of find out what's going on. There is a huge plume. I am looking at video of the plane crash, huge plume of fireball and subsequent smoke. So we'll get into that. Ken Weaver's got some of that in the news right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now in Philadelphia, we're watching local TV coverage of what is being reported as a small plane crash into what appears to be buildings, possibly a residential area. This is from a reporter with CBS News Philadelphia Channel 3.
Piles of debris on fire and cars all over the place. Some cars just left, doors open. They're not parked. It was as if this, just came at a second's notice, and there's just a lot of hose in the across the picture. And as I'm describing this, and I apologize if I'm not linking it, as perfectly as I would like, but it is just. It is a catastrophe that I'm looking at.
Yeah, this report says police say 2 people were on that plane and that there are injuries on the ground, and multiple homes are on fire in the area of Cotman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard, which is in northeast Philadelphia. It's unclear at this time what led to the crash, and the victim's status also not immediately available. Right now in D.C., investigators say they now have both black box recorders from the Army Black Hawk helicopter and American Airlines regional jet that collided Monday night, killing 67 people. NTSB member J. Todd Inman confirming it during a press briefing. The U.S. Army Black Hawk recorders in good condition.
It was then opened today, and we have a high level of confidence that we will be able to get a full download in the very near future.
Now, investigators currently engaging in a multi-step process to dry out the jetliner's cockpit recorder. And I'm seeing reports that government web pages, including the entire Census Bureau site, have disappeared amid a scramble to comply with President Trump's order to remove DEI references like pronouns by the close of business today. Also, reports say that the top 6 officials in the FBI have been sent packing today. And speaking from the Oval Office this afternoon to reporters, President Trump telling he's not holding back on the tariffs plan for Canada, China, and Mexico.
President Trump said the 25% tariff on goods from Mexico and Canada and 10% on Chinese products will go into effect tomorrow, February 1st, as he said he would do.
Mr. President, is there anything China, Canada, and Mexico can do tonight to forestall your implementation of tariffs tomorrow?
No, nothing. Not right now, no.
Not a negotiating tool?
No, it's not, no.
The president acknowledged the tariffs could result in what he called temporary short-term disruption to American consumers. He said he would place tariffs on oil and gas in mid-February.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Dr. Poss, Dr. McLaughlin, and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Center. So I was like you. I was not, if you don't have energy in the mornings, if you don't know why, if you feel like you should be getting a good night's sleep, but you're just not, I would invite you to contact Dr. Poss. It's something that I did, and I'm so happy that I did because I wasn't aware of my sleep apnea. Dr. Poss and Dr. McLaughlin, they advised me to do the same thing. They advised me to take a sleep test, and I did, and I discovered that I did, in fact, have sleep apnea, and now I have an FDA-approved device. I never could have worn a CPAP machine. I just know how I am, but I can wear this. You don't notice it after a night or two, and this device gently supports your jaw. It keeps the airways open, so you breathe better, you sleep better, you don't snore, and you get a better night's sleep. So it improves your health, and it improves your relationship because I promise you, your snoring is probably annoying your partner. They're also in network with BCBS, Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, TRICARE for the military. Call them today or join them online at drposs.com. That's drposs.com. Dr. Stephen Poss, Dr. Brian McLaughlin. 2 locations, Murfreesboro and Brentwood. Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center.
Got 24 westbound at Old Hickory Boulevard south. This is going to be in Laverne. Right now in Mount Juliet, you got Highway 109 southbound north of I-40. A crash reported by the Highway Patrol. And then an injury crash, Briley Parkway southbound at I-24. And near the airport, Briley Parkway at I-40. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, it is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WT, and at some point this hour, we'll talk about happier things, like the event that I will be taking part of tomorrow. I hope that you join me in this event, or you join me at this event. I'll be judging a chili cook-off. That is on the way, coming up a little bit later on. In the meantime, we've got breaking news happening right now at 7 minutes after 6 o'clock. Just about an hour ago, an aircraft reportedly struck what is being described as a mall by several media outlets in Philadelphia. We also have it that several homes, or buildings at least, are currently on fire. I'm looking at some video right now. This happened once again about an hour ago. So it was right around 6 o'clock local time, Philadelphia time, that is in the Eastern time zone, where what is being described as a small aircraft hit the ground and reportedly struck a mall. There are multiple casualties that have been reported in this event. Ken Weaver's in the newsroom, and he will gather any headlines. Break in. If you get any information on this story, Ken, obviously break in and let us know. I'll say this. I've seen explosions that do not include whatever it was that hit in the video. I've seen those explosions. I've only seen one video of what appears to be the object that hit Philadelphia. And it, I'm just telling you in real time, it doesn't look like a plane. It doesn't look big enough to be a plane. It almost looks like a meteor or a missile. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not saying I know anything other than what I'm seeing on my screen. Now, I don't think there's any audio to this. If there is, there's probably.
Well, according to this CBS News Philadelphia, this Channel 3, they're quoting police as saying it's a plane.
It's an aircraft? It's a plane? All right. Well, yeah, no, I will trust local authorities, obviously. with regard to, I mean, and this is in a populated enough area. I think we're already seeing a couple of videos from various vantage points. I would be willing to bet you there's going to be, much like in Washington, D.C., you're going to ultimately see plenty of vantage points, and we'll get some eyeballs on exactly what happened here. But a small aircraft, what is being described as a small aircraft, and understand, in real time, we don't know what that means. That could mean, as small as a two-seater. It can mean a small commuter plane. We don't know. But what is being described in what I'm seeing, Ken, as a small aircraft hit a populated area in Philadelphia. I'm seeing where multiple buildings are being described as on fire. I saw some video a moment ago where there's an obvious, pretty broad area of devastation.
I'm counting at least 4 vehicles fully engulfed, and they're separated. I mean, the debris, there is basically, it looks like to me there is a debris field that is on fire. And it does look to me now like this row of what appear to be townhomes is near a mall, the Peacock Mall.
Okay.
It is the Peacock Mall. I don't know if that's Peacock. It's something mall.
Okay.
And it looks like maybe it's a strip mall.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the blaze, and I'm probably looking at some of the same video that you're seeing, Ken. From my vantage point, there's debris seems to be everywhere, smashed cars everywhere. So, however this happened, the video that I've seen looks like it was from some sort of Ring camera. It was underneath an awning, and you can see just something small and going at what seems to be a very high rate of speed, descending out of the sky and landing, and then an immense fireball after the fact. So that's happening in Philadelphia right now. Is it?
I mean, that's a large area.
The fireball
for a quote unquote small plane.
That's what I thought too. I mean, and one of the reasons that my initial reaction was, is this a plane? Is that it looks. In this shot, I'm going to retweet this shot, and you guys can look at it at Matt Murphy Show on my social media platform. But it looks to be a rather small object relative to the fireball that it creates. That's all I can tell you.
That could be the fuel. That could be.
Sure.
I mean, what could have happened here, Brother Murphy, is what I'm looking at is maybe this thing, like, it's as it's coming down, it's just skipping off of multiple buildings.
Right.
Because it does look to be a heavily populated area.
Oh, my goodness.
This Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. I'm sure we've got somebody from Philadelphia listening to us. They could probably tell us what this area is
northeast
like.
Philadelphia looks like. So that's going on right now as we speak. And obviously, police officers, firefighters, EMTs, emergency crews, first responders are descending upon the scene, trying to do what they can. But there's an aircraft of some form has struck a populated area in northeast. Is that right? Did I just say that? Northeast Philadelphia, and very close to some sort of strip mall and homes or buildings, condos or whatnot. We'll try to get all the information that we possibly can by 7 o'clock and pass it along to you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Todd is next in Hartsville. Hello, Todd. How are you?
How you doing?
Doing well, Todd. Thank you for the call.
Gentlemen, this little accident, it's not little, this accident up in D.C., it's very close to home for me and my family. We lost our son 6 years ago in a mid-air collision over the Sea of Japan. He was a Marine, and what I want to do is I want to thank you guys for the way y'all are covering this. You're not jumping to conclusions. You're listening to other people, and even though some of them are wrong, some of them are very wrong, I am also a airline pilot, and I'm not going to get into it. I didn't call to discuss what's going on, what may have gone on, or speculate. I want to thank you guys for how you're handling it, from a Gold Star father standpoint, from a pilot standpoint, and from a professional standpoint.
Well, I mean, thank you. I mean, Todd, I just do what my instincts dictate to do in these, especially in these breaking news situations. You're very kind, and I appreciate the kind words in the call. Here's the deal. I mean, we live in a world where information comes at us at a breakneck speed. Sadly, it is next to impossible with the speed of information to discern what is real and what is not, what is true and what is false, what is misdirection or misinformation, and what is actual verifiable information, and frankly, what is purely speculation and presented as real. Sadly, there are a lot of people, keyboard warriors, that present things in real time in the immediate. I'm already seeing it about this. This crash of an aircraft in Philadelphia is an hour and 10 minutes old, and I'm looking right now on social media feeds where people are declaring that it was a missile. Just declaring it.
Yeah.
Just like, that was a missile.
That's a missile.
And, y'all, we got to be better than this. I mean, we don't have to be, I suppose. I suppose that those individuals have always existed. Sadly, in the modern era, they are allowed to rise to more levels of prominence as a result of social media and how they can, bolster their presence on said same. All of that to say, I, Ken, Chris, everyone at Super Talk 99.7 WTN, we do our dead level best to hold ourselves to a slightly different standard when it comes to dissemination of information. Now, we're a conversation point. We're the public square. So I'm going to tell you what we know. I'm going to tell you what we don't know. I'm going to tell you what is speculation. I'm going to tell you what is fact. I'm going to tell you how you can distinguish between the two. That's all we can do. And I'll let you come to your own conclusion. I'll come to my conclusions. I'll tell you those conclusions as well. And you get to come to your own conclusions. So we're doing all of that in real time. Everything that we're doing is kind of a blend of what has always gone on in American society, but it is just not gone on at the breakneck speed that it happens nowadays. I mean, in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor, and you don't have to believe me, you can go back and look at this, it was not minutes or hours or even days, but in the weeks and months that followed Pearl Harbor, there were people that were actively saying that Franklin Delano Roosevelt knew about it, right? Now, most of us, some would suggest that that's true. That theory lingers to this moment. What I'm suggesting is this is not necessarily new, but it does happen with a speed, and it does filter through so many different sectors of society that it seems like it's happening with a lot more regularity, and maybe it is. All that to say, we don't know. We don't know, and it's okay to say we don't know. And it's not always the worst thing to do that. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWT. And if you know, or if you have any additional information or thoughts on this, by all means. On the heels, this might not be necessarily the national story that it is in the absence of the helicopter plane crash in Washington, D.C., but considering that this is happening on the heels of that, it is obviously a pretty big, it would be a big story anyway, in that it is the middle of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and it apparently struck a very populated area. And the initial reports are out of local television there. I'm looking at is that TXT or TXF?
TXF.
Oh, thank you. That's W. Matt needs glasses and Chris doesn't. That's what it is. WTXF. That, there's an incredible amount of first responder presence, and reports are that there are casualties involved in all of this. 615-737-9986. We'll reset momentarily. I'll try to get you as much information as I possibly can about this latest breaking news, and we'll be back in a moment on Super Talk. Did you know that Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? They staff all of their locations with more people than the average auto repair shop, more staff members than the average auto repair shop. Why? So they can be ready for you. When an emergency pops up, they want to be there. Friends, have you noticed how hard it can be to get a right now appointment at a vehicle repair shop? Difficult. Not at Eurofix. Some dealers are more than 2 weeks out. Not at Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car right now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your European car fixed, owner Aaron Stokes said, "We'll never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take their pain away right now." Eurofix repairs all European cars. Eurofix says yes to speedy repairs. For the last 26 years, they've been doing it the right way. 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX. Or go to myEurofix.com. myEurofix.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
All right, we'll get you the very latest on this plane crash in northeast Philadelphia, very heavily populated area that involves a mall and homes and several vehicles and, of course, people. And we've got the day's closing money news coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And just after 6:30, we'll shift gears and tell you about something that maybe can get your mind off the negative news that's been going down over the last week or so. There is some positive news happening as well, and we'll tell you about that. And maybe if you're out and about tomorrow, you might want to enjoy a nice bowl of chili, or 3 or 8 or 16. You can do so, and we'll tell you about that coming up in just a couple of minutes. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, here's what has been going down the last hour or so, and it's what we know. An aircraft of some form has reportedly struck near a mall in Philadelphia, populated area. We're seeing some images. I'm looking at one right now of the aircraft going down. I don't know what form of aircraft. I don't know. There are reports that are out there, and these are just reports unconfirmed by yours truly or anybody at Super Talk thus far, unless Ken's got it, that that there was a flight tracker on a Lear jet, and that Lear jet is now off the flight tracker, and it was heading to Philadelphia, and that it was reportedly flying at a fast rate of speed. Whatever this was a fast rate of speed, because we've seen this. I'm trying to deal with a lot of different things in real time. No, I'm not. We're dealing with a helicopter plane crash in D.C. That's one thing that we're talking about. That happened a couple of days ago. An hour ago, some form of aircraft flying at a high rate of speed crashed into Philadelphia and has done massive damage and potentially has killed individuals in that area. It has struck a populated area.
Wow.
What are you looking at, Ken?
I'm looking at Fox LA, Foxla. It's Fox 11 on X, and I think it's what you were describing earlier. And
that fireball?
Yeah, the fireball. After you see something dropping out of the sky, and I mean that fireball.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Compared to the size of the thing falling out of the sky.
And here's the thing. It sounds like a jet.
Mm-hmm.
That does not sound like a small plane.
No.
That sounds like a jet as it's falling. I'll put my phone up closer to it because for some reason, I can't get this on my computer.
Let me...
Here it comes.
Let me see if this, let me see if this has any audio associated to it. Hold on, let me get at you from here. That's all I got from on this side.
It did sound like a jet.
You can hear the scream.
Yeah.
It's screaming.
You can hear the scream. That might go along with a report that we had
of a missile.
Well, no. I mean, I don't know.
Well, just speculation.
But we also had a report of a missing Learjet.
Yes.
So, and I'm seeing that from Flight Tracker. There's a lot of Flight Tracker data that's coming down and I'm just trying to marry information. So apparently, and I'm getting this from a couple of different sources, that according to Flight Radar, there was a Learjet 55 that was in flight near Philadelphia that was lost on radar.
Yeah.
And so now they're trying to put two and two together. I don't know if you can put two and two together, except to say that we're trying. And I'm looking at this on Fox now, so they're just saying the same thing that I just said, that it is a possible Learjet 55 that has the capability of going at a rather high rate of speed.
Well, and that's probably where, the folks were texting us about it being a missile, because until you know what the police, according to the local reports, are saying, it looks like it could be until you know what police are saying.
Right.
So,
well, and here's what I think I can safely speculate on right now, Ken.
Okay.
That was not some sort of propeller.
No, sir.
Based small aircraft.
No, that's not like one of these little two-seaters.
No, that was something that was going at a very high rate of speed when it hit the ground in Philadelphia. So we got that going on. We have a lot of new information coming out regarding the crash that happened a couple of days ago, to include the Black Hawk helicopter. Apparently, there is voice data on this helicopter. We were confused. Originally, the report was there may not have been, but now, according to CNN, the black box voice and data recorder from inside the Black Hawk helicopter has been recovered as of about an hour ago. Has no signs of exterior damage, according to the National Transportation Safety Board. The Sikorsky has a combined cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, said board member Todd Inman. we can report to you that it has been recovered, and we have recovered the black box. According to another NTSB official, one of the two recorders recovered from the regional jet involved in Wednesday's collision has sustained water intrusion. That does not necessarily mean that they cannot retrieve all of the data on it. According to National Transportation Safety Board member Todd Inman, it is not uncommon. It's not an unusual event for us to retrieve a recorder with water intrusion. We deal with that all the time, he said at a news conference just earlier today. The cockpit voice recorder was soaked overnight in ionized water, at which point the team put it into a vacuum oven in order to extract moisture, and they will do so, and then eventually they'll get to that cockpit voice recorder and figure out exactly what was going on inside of the aircraft. It is my pure speculation that I would suggest to you that, based on everything that we've seen, I mean, you don't feel like they ever saw it coming, but we don't know until we know. And you get the data in flight and you get the voice recorder in flight. You put those two things together and then you figure it out. I think it will be a much more telling event when we get cockpit voice on the helicopter, because now we're getting information that air traffic control, I mean, they're being interviewed, as you might expect, and it will be ongoing for the next several days, and all witnesses are clearly corroborating. But we're now being told that up to 2 minutes before the helicopter made impact with the aircraft in Washington, D.C., that helicopter was told to be leery of the incoming flight, and that they were reminded to get visual on that as they were crossing the flight path or preparing to cross the flight path, and that the helicopter did not veer off its course at the time that it was told that there was an incoming commercial flight. So that's the latest information that we have in that regard. We'll try to catch you up to speed with what's going on in Philadelphia as well. It's 31 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now we're on that plane crash, at least what police say is a plane crash in northeast Philadelphia. It's left multiple homes on fire, caused an explosion. Here's a reporter with CBS News Philadelphia, Channel 3.
There's jet fuel there and car parts. There was absolutely an explosion described by the Philadelphia Fire Department at time of impact. Again, that's 18:12, so it's 12 minutes past 6. And we're still working on the confirmation of where this plane originated.
So almost an hour and a half ago, this is in the area of Roosevelt Boulevard and Cottman Avenue in northeast Philadelphia. Multiple homes, cars, and it looks like possibly part of a mall, the Roosevelt Mall, are on fire. CBS News Philadelphia says police say 2 people were on board this plane, as police are putting it, and there are reports of casualties, although none of that has been officially confirmed, but reports of casualties, and from the looks of the scene, that does appear that's not out of the realm of possibility. Money News, here's Michelle Franzen.
Stocks taking a hard hit Friday as investors worry about the impact of President Trump's tariffs expected to begin this weekend against Mexico, Canada, and China. The Dow lost 337 points, the S&P giving up its week of gains to finish 30 points in the red, and the Nasdaq 54 points down. Shares for Walgreens also took a dive Friday when the drugstore chain announced it was suspending its quarterly shareholder payouts after more than 90 years. The company saying the cash will instead be needed for things like litigation and debt refinancing. WNBA star Angel Reese teams up with McDonald's to offer the company's first ever female athlete meal. The Angel Reese special will be offered starting next month and will come with a bacon quarter pounder with cheese featuring a bold new barbecue sauce, fries, and a drink.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, downtown 24 eastbound East Loop. We've got a crash blocking the right lane there at Shelby Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Friends, if you're out and about over the course of the weekend, might I encourage you to stop by, if you're on Charlotte Pike or near there, L&L Market, and walk on into Savory Spice. Maybe you're in Franklin and you're just off the square. If you see the sign to Gray's Pharmacy, you're right beside Savory Spice. Go on in and see the friendly folks. Holly and David are oftentimes there. They've got friendly and knowledgeable staff members that can help you select the spices that are right for you for your dinner time meal or what you're cooking over the course of the weekend. And let me tell you, you smell it before you see it. As soon as you walk into the doorway, you'll smell the delicious aroma of cinnamon and other types of spices, whether it's international flavors or whatever it might be, rubs for steak or seafood. I mean, they have it for every taste. They have incredible spices that you cannot find anywhere else. They've got the Spice and Easy line of products, so you don't have to know, you don't have to be a kitchen expert. You don't have to be a chef to enjoy what Savory Spice has to offer. They've got a lot of different sprinkles. I absolutely love the sprinkles to put on salads. You can put on other different types of things and a variety of different flavors and whatnot, plus gifts for the cook in your family. They've got those as well at Savory Spice. So if you're out and about, stop by. Tell them I sent you to Savory Spice. Once again, 2 locations just off the square in Franklin, L&L Market in Nashville, the one and only Savory Spice. Man, I knew it. I told you guys. By the way, 38 after the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy, Chris Weber behind the glass, Ken Weaver reporting on the breaking news. And it's been coming fast and furious for the past hour or so. We were reporting on this Wednesday helicopter plane crash out of Washington, D.C. There's been another plane crash on the heels of that one. This time, it appears that this was a Learjet 55, and I guess that's just a Lear designation, a style or a type of jet that the Lear line carries. And I predicted this, that we would see multiple vantage points, and boy, oh boy, are they coming in. You can find them all over the X machine right now as we're getting a variety of vantage points of what we see as the object falling out of the sky. It is going at a fast rate of speed, and it looks small. Relatively speaking, it is small. Here's what we believe, and I stress the word believe to you, happened. And this is just over an hour old. But the report is that a Learjet took off from a suburb of Philadelphia full of fuel, a medical flight with a patient, 2 doctors, and a family member of the patient, and 2 pilots. So 6 souls on board. Once again, 2 pilots, 2 doctors, a patient, and a family member. The report was that this medical flight was flying from, I'm going to wait till Weber gets off the phone. He told me, and I can't remember. Branson, Missouri. Is that right? Yeah, thumbs up. Report was that this was flying out of Philadelphia to Branson, Missouri. If that is the case, in my limited knowledge of these things, I don't pretend to be an expert on explosions or jet fuel, but that would explain the explosion. The explosion looked large and dramatic for the size of the object that was hurtling to Earth. Well, if that object had just taken off, experienced some sort of mechanical failure or difficulty, and crashed as a result of said same, well, it makes sense that it would make a tremendous fireball considering that it was full of fuel. So that's what we know about that. If you have any thoughts on it or comments, questions, conversation, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN, either via the super text line, or you can also give us a call as well. Scott writes in, and it says, it looks just like the videos you see out of the Middle East or out of Israel. I'm highly skeptical that that's a plane. Well, I mean, I understand your skepticism. I also understand that there was I'm not saying we know. We don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know why they would be lying to us if it wasn't. I would think that it would not be a preferred lie to, I don't even want to get into it. Except to say that a Learjet is being reported missing. There was a Learjet that took off near Philadelphia, had 6 people on board, 2 pilots, 2 doctors, a patient, and a family member of said patient, and it is now gone. So, I understand that we are all skeptical, but Scott, no worries. Look, Scott's like, no, I'm not knocking on anybody. I just read your name real quick, so don't think that I'm knocking on you. I just, it didn't. In fact, I agree with you. It looks exactly like a missile coming out of the sky. It was going at that rate of speed. So don't misinterpret. I mean, I'm just trying to correct and say, no, I don't think that's what it was. But no, you look at some of these videos and it looks like a missile like you would see over Israel. But it appears that it was a small plane. 2 days in the aftermath of what happened in Washington, D.C. That's very sad news. Let's lighten the mood just a moment, if we will. And as we roll into the final minutes of the show, I'll kind of reset and give you where we are in terms of this plane crash that's just about an hour and a half old. But if you need a respite from the news of the day, I have a place for you to go. I have been honored to be an invitee, to be an official judge of the 5th annual Rutter's Chili Cook-Off happening tomorrow. For all of you planning on coming out, you got to get there at about 1 o'clock. I have to be there a little bit earlier because I'm going to be sampling delicious chilies and deciding which ones are my favorite. And to speak to this matter, we welcome to the show Patrick, who is on the line with us. And I think Patrick has a very special guest along with him. Hey, Patrick, how are you, man?
Doing fine, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You got Chef Steve there with you?
I do, sitting right here next to me. How's it going, Matt?
What's going on, Chef Steve?
Just getting ready for this chili cook-off. It's going to be a big day. We're super excited, super thrilled to have everybody.
Oh, man, I am excited. If there's one thing I like doing better than hosting a radio show on a daily basis, it's eating delicious chili and judging which is my favorite, which I'll be doing tomorrow morning. Tell us a little about, Patrick, I'll start with you. This is your 5th annual chili cook-off. Everything that I've ever heard, I've never been able to go, but everything I've heard from my good friend Pamela Furr, I call her the redheaded stranger, everyone that's ever been, Chris Weber told me that he went a couple of years ago, my producer,
right,
and said this thing is absolutely fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Tell us a little about it, Patrick.
Well, it's something that we do. Patrick, the original owner of the Rudder, started it 5 years ago, and we've continued the tradition. And it's a fundraiser for the Sumner County Humane Society. The money that we raise for this chili cook-off goes to the Sumner County. They're a furry. We're going to have like dogs here tomorrow for adoption. There's going to be a dog tag maker. There's going to be a lady here doing the little bandanas. And then we're going to have a Bloody Mary contest where the best Bloody Mary wins. And then we're going to have 25 competitors competing for the first place award for the best chili made. And I want to also say that Tito's Handmade Vodka is donating $2,000 right off the get-go. They have every year as a sponsor for this, and that's fantastic.
There's another reason to love their delicious vodka, is they're donating money to good causes like the Humane. That's pretty cool in and of itself. I absolutely love it. And I would expect – go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and I was going to say, I also know you talked about earlier today, Saturday Night Live having their 50th anniversary. Well, the Humane Society, it's also their 50th anniversary as well.
Well, I know a lot of guys up there in Sumner County. You know, when I first got to town, I was in Goodlettsville, and I know the Rudders very well. Everybody knows about what a wonderful place that is. But to do this for the community and specifically for the Humane Society, I mean, I'm a dog lover. I absolutely love the four-leggers. I mean, guys, I'm so excited because it involves everything that I love about life away from the work that we do, right? It's you got a little Tito's vodka going on. You got four-legged pooches. We're adopting them. We're eating some chili. We're drinking some delicious Bloody Marys. I mean, everything about this just checks all the boxes. Now, Chef Steve, I want to ask you, what are you going to be doing all day? Are you judging? Are you cooking? What's your role in all of this?
So I'm not judging, but I have made a house chili, and we'll also be putting out a ton of hot dogs so people can make all their chili dogs. It's going to be a good time.
How in the history of the event, and I know that anytime you get a chili cook-off going, you're going to have a spice level for every taste bud. But how hot are we getting over there? How aggressive do some of the teams get?
I'm sure there's a few out there that get pretty spicy. I prefer a spicy chili myself.
I do as well.
Nothing's gonna kill you.
Look, I look forward to every single bit of it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and obviously, there's cash and prizes for first, second, and third place in the chili categories. It says here on the flyer, celebrity judges. I guess I'm an add-on. You couldn't find enough celebrities, guys.
No. Hey, before we even started, I called Miss Pamela Furr, my good buddy, and she brought it up, and I said, I would love to have Matt Murphy. Absolutely love. And it worked out. So we're thanking you for being a part of this.
Oh, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get away from the negative news. Let's get away from, the grind of the day, and let's get out to the Rudders' 5th annual chili cook-off. So give me all the details, right? So doors are opening up at about 1 o'clock. Is that about right?
Well, the doors open actually at 11 o'clock. Everybody's going to be we're going to be like our regular business at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
And then we've got the judges showing up at 11. You got to come early, feed you, make sure that, you've got something in your tummy. And then we put you at the table and set you up. We set up all the crock pots that are coming in. And then once they're all set up and everything, it should be about noon. And then you guys will start tasting and judging, and everybody will be there. And then we'll start selling tickets for the all-you-can-eat buffet. $20, you get an armband. And then you go up and you can test whatever chili you want. Usually the one that wins goes first, then second, then third, and on down the line. So it's, like I said, a really good event. It's for the community. We give a lot to the community. We do a lot here at the Rudder. As you know, we were wiped out by the tornado, the marina. It's totally been rebuilt, and we're going to we really, really, really want this to be a really good thing for everybody and for the community here in Hendersonville.
Well, I mean, it's obviously we love Hendersonville, and we love the Rudder, and we love dogs. I can't say it enough. Love chili, love Bloody Marys, love Chef Steve. I mean, everything about it is going to be great. So y'all come out. $20, right? Is that right? Before?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, $20. All right. What do you got?
I just want to do a shout out for Luke. We've got a dog that hangs out here. His name is Luke. He's Sherry Patton's pet, and Luke is like a human being. You'll probably meet him tomorrow. But this dog is incredible, and we're all dog lovers. I've got 6. Patrick's got Waker. Zach's got Duke. I mean, everybody here's got dogs. So I'm just telling you, this is important for us.
The trickiest part for me tomorrow, Steve and Patrick, will be not walking away with a four-legged animal on my hip because I'm a sucker for adoptions like that. So that's going to be the tricky part. But you know what? A lot worse things could happen than finding yourself a forever home with a friendly pet. Guys, thank you for doing this. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. I invite everybody to come out. Chris Webber said that he's more than 50-50 that he'll be out there with us, so that's pretty good. $20, all you can eat chili, and you can sample some of those Bloody Marys. They'll be in the mix as well. Anything else for the audience to know, guys?
I just want to tell you that my favorite skit on Saturday Night Live is the Coneheads when Dan Aykroyd puts the vacuum in his mouth.
That's good. Patrick and Chef Steve, thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. I'll be there bright and early, about 11 o'clock. That's when doors open, and y'all come out. See me if you so desire. Have some delicious chili, maybe a Bloody Mary, and pet some furry animals. I absolutely love everything about the Rudders' 5th annual chili cook-off that's happening tomorrow at the Rudders. All right, we're going to wrap things up in just a moment. We'll update you on everything we know about the plane crash in Philadelphia. That's coming up next on Super Talk. By the way, before I talk about USS, did you see where Dan Mandis this morning was encouraging people to send me audio farts? Did you see that?
No, he didn't.
He did too. Like they were third in line to the story about that. I'm going to tell you about this in a moment. I got to talk about USS right now. USS, let me tell you something. If you smell a smell that is not a poot-like smell, but it is a musty, moldy, nasty, or maybe it smells like poot. I don't know. One way or the other, if you go to the basement or crawl space and you smell that smell, you need to call USS. They guarantee their best, and they are the problem solvers when it comes to issues involving waterproofing around your home. We've had a lot of rain over the last couple of days. Do you smell it? If you do, you need to make the call because that's not going away, and that musty, moldy odor is going to represent damage to your home if you let it. When USS comes out to your house, they diagnose what's going wrong. They'll check those windows and doors, make sure they're not sticking. They'll check to see if the foundation has settled any, and if that is causing a problem with you and your home. And some of those musty, moldy odors can cause health concerns as well. Let's get them handled with USS. USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. Keeping homes stable and dry since 1994. Call them 615-488-7855. 488-7855 for USS. All right, several of you asking this question. Hey, Matt, are they still taking entries at the Rutter's Chili Cook-Off? They are full. They only had room for 25 contestants, and they are full maybe next year. But come on out anyway and say hello to Matt Murphy. And maybe, just maybe, I'm fingers crossed on Chris Webber. Chris says maybe. He's checking his schedule.
See
as
how I
we
feel
speak.
in the morning.
Yeah, speaking of poots, because, after a chili cook-off competition, you're probably going to have some poots.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, Mandis was apparently they were third in line to do the. We did it first. The story about the woman that was recording her poots and sending it to her ex-boyfriend's.
Her boyfriend's ex.
Her boyfriend's ex.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess she thought it was real funny. And so Dan decided to encourage the listening audience to do the same to us.
Anybody take you up on it yet?
No takers.
Ha!
How about that, Mandis? I think that tells us everything we need to know about where allegiances lie around here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So several of you that have said, can I enter? No, they're full, but come on out anyway and say hello to us. We would love to see you. Now, real quick, on a serious note, just before we go, the latest information that we have on this Northeast Philadelphia plane crash. We now know it to be a plane crash. I understand that some of the footage looks very odd, but this is reportedly a Learjet 55, which departed Northeast Philadelphia Airport shortly before it crashed in Philadelphia. It was headed to Springfield Branson National Airport in Missouri. It was a medical assignment flight. It reportedly had two pilots on board, two doctors on board, a patient, and a relative of the patient. There were 6 people reportedly all on board, and all 6 are reportedly deceased. And there may be individuals on the ground deceased as well. That's that's the latest that we have. A lot of videos coming out of this Philadelphia, Pennsylvania crash. Friends, have a good weekend. Enjoy time with family and friends. It should be some nice weather, highs in the 60s or thereabouts. And we'll be back Monday at 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. For Ken Weaver, for Chris Webber, Matt Murphy, speaking and saying, so long, everybody.